What's up, good people? What's up, good people? We are back. We are back. We are back. We are back. We are back for another one. Make sure you hit the like button as you come on in. We're getting this thing started. I'm still getting myself together as I always am when the show start. But I'd like to thank everybody for coming on in today. I put the link in the chat. If you're listening, the link you should be able to see it right down there in the chat. You should be able to see that. So go and check that out. Go and get with that. Go ahead and take that link. I am getting things set up. And yes, even though it looked like the show is on the road and we're rolling, I'm still going to roll the intro because I'm pulling that up right now as we speak. I see a few people have made it in already. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that like button. Let people know that you're here. Want to be getting this thing started. Y'all know how I do on the Sunday mornings now. The Sunday mornings. This is a reoccurring series that until the foreseeable future, you can count on this one. You can count on this one. So be looking for me every Sunday morning. Don't just be looking for me. Be looking for me and Ike every Sunday morning. We're going to be getting this thing going. Going to be getting this thing started. Going to be making a reoccurring situation out of this. I'm calling it a poor man's version of the brother pill. You know, we're not going to be able to fully replicate O'Shea and LAR, but we gonna fake it till we make it. We're gonna fake it till we make it. But once again, thank you everybody for coming on in who keep this show rolling, who keep this show on the road. And as I said, even though it's a late game intro start, because I did a long pre-intro intro, we're gonna roll the intro, give people some time to make it on in. And let's go. Let's get it.
Peace, folks. This is X from TPOT Media. Open your mind and wake your black ass up. You know what time it is. Hit that damn like button as you make your way in the door. Grab a seat, settle in, get ready. It's the Grown Man Hour with your host, my man, Bernard Riley.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Mumia Obsidian Ali. You know who I am. I need no introduction, right? And you're listening to the Grown Man Hour with my man Bernard Riley, heard weekdays right here on YouTube. What do you think about that? How about that? Now let's get back on with the show. Thank you.
And once again, what's up, good people? Welcome aboard. We're going to be bringing up Ike Ogiamien. I think I'm still botching his name, but that's all right. I'm gonna get it together. Shout out to Omega Dreads in the building. Shout out to the Early Bird Squad, those that make it in bright and early. I appreciate the people that make it bright and early on the Sunday shows, because then I normally don't go Sunday. So those of you that make it in bright and early on the Sunday shows, I know you really rock with me. So I appreciate everybody who comes in bright and early. Ike was obviously ready bright and early, requesting the link right on time. I got to ask him a question about the on time thing because I can see him in the back chat. Y'all can't see him, but I was probably going to get a slight laugh when I throw out there that I've heard, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that Africans have a tendency to be late as well. much like the African American, the Black American variety of Negro. I hear that Africans have the same tendency, so I'm going to ask him about that when he comes up. But shout out to K Polymath. He says ninjas and temporal incongruence. I have no idea what you're talking about there. I have no idea what he's talking about. Just being jazzy in the building. Says morning Bernard, y'all. Ignore the naked lady. Ignore the half-naked lady. Ignore it. Shout out to everybody else who's in the building. Aaron B. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. Who we got? Money Line Parlay. Shout out to you. Ronald Calhoun. The woman showing her cups says to me, nice cups. Interesting. Shout out to, how do I say that? Graph? I guess that's graph. Giraffe? Who knows? New in the building. CP time all over the world. But all right, without further ado, we're about to bring up the man of the hour. Ike in the building. What's going on? What's happening? Welcome to the show.
Let me see here. Welcome. Well, should I be welcoming you or should I just be saying, well, thank you?
Yeah. I think you should be saying thank you. I think that's how it works. I think the host welcomes. I think that's how it works.
Excellent. Well, it's always a pleasure, Bernard. So thank you. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to a productive conversation.
Always. We always have good, productive conversations. And now to the question that I threw out there about the CP time, because I heard through, it was a Black American when I was taking some classes at the local community college. I was told by my psychology teacher, professor, one of the smartest men I know. There's a school in my city built in his honor. So he's a really great guy. He passed away some 8 years ago when they built the school and named it after him. But really smart guy, smartest man I ever met. He said that when he was in Africa, I forgot where in Africa, but an event was supposed to start, let's just say at 10 o'clock. He arrived there at about 9:55. He was very on time, very early, put it like that. He's a show up 10-15 minutes early type of guy. So he sat there, he waited 10 o'clock. You just saw like a small sprinkling of people there. It was supposed to be roughly 100 to 150 people there. So at 10 o'clock, he saw, about 8 or 9, 10, 15 people walking around. 10:30, the crowd got almost halfway to capacity. But by 11 o'clock, boom, then like right at about 11, everybody just filed in. And I was like, huh? It's like we have CP time over here. But the way he described it, it was almost like it was organized. Like they like grouped together and planned to all come in an hour late.
Yeah, it is true. Like what you're alluding to is true of Black people worldwide. Not going to get all psychological with it because I'm not a psychologist, evolutionary psychologist or something like that to give the reasons, but it would seem like there is a link between the CP time over there, African American, and also the CP time for, the Africans. People tend to have a bigger window, right? For them, it's almost like morning, afternoon, and evening. You know what I mean? It's like there are 3 time blocks. It's like, you get what I'm saying? It's like evening, okay, evening could be any time from 3 o'clock to maybe 5, who knows, that kind of thing. So that's kind of how they roll. And it makes sense if you evolve that way and you kind of live in that kind of, there's the sun is here and then the sun is there. That's kind of how you organize the day. Then it doesn't really matter. But for me, even though I am African, I am an outlier in this way. Like I'm extreme, even amongst everybody in the world. I'm very extreme when it comes to time. For me, it's 15 minutes early. Otherwise, you're late. That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I kind of got the feeling that that's how you operate it, and that's why I work really hard to be on time when I'm having you on, and by on time I mean about 5 minutes late. That's that's on time. That's on
That's
time.
very good. That's good enough. Yeah, I'm in Ethiopia right now, for example, and I was in Ghana last time. Now I'm in Ethiopia, so I'm seeing it firsthand. That kind of approach towards time. Like for example, there was a window at an airport. For example, I'm going to go do some transaction. Ethiopian Airlines back in Ghana. They were like, "We're on break till 2:30." Okay, 2:30 came around, and they were just still kind of lackadaisically kind of walking back and forth behind the window. And someone asked them like whatever, they were like, "Oh, we're still on break." The break didn't end till 2:50, and to them that's just kind of normal. It's like, yeah, it says 2:30 there, but 2:30, 2:50, what does it? It doesn't really matter. It's still 2 something. That's kind of how they think. Yeah.
No, yeah, left to our own devices here. If like I've worked jobs where it was a very lax supervisor who he had a mentality that at the end of the day, if you got the job done, the job is done. So he wasn't nitpicky about the breaks, and he was an outlier because most jobs the break starts at 9 o'clock and ends at 9:30. You're expected to be working right up until the clock says 9 a.m. and then breaking. And then coming back from break right. You need to be in your position ready to work when 9:30 hits. That's how it is. I worked a lot of production jobs, assembly line jobs, where it's all about time and production and how many parts can be assembled in that time. And I used to work those jobs, so time was very important. But I worked some jobs where the supervisor was lax for whatever reason, and left to our own devices. Yeah, we're going to go to break 5 minutes early, and we're going to come back 15 minutes late. And that was more or less how it was, unless we were just really swamped and had to do a lot of work. And if only time we came back from break on time is if not doing it jeopardized the time that we were going to be able to leave.
There you go.
Because if taking an extra 15 minutes on all the breaks means that we're going to end up working an extra 40 minutes at the end of the day, and I was like, whoa, hold on, we gotta rein this in. But no, it's a crazy thing. My the psychology professor, he told me that that they more or less said that they said, here we control time, it doesn't control us. He used that statement, but I like the way you put a finer point on it, is morning, noon, evening. And for a group of people that spent most of their history gauging time based off where the sun was, instead of a very precise 10:45 a.m. is what time we're starting. But no, we're starting in the morning. So that's a segment from, I don't know, 9 to 12 or 9 to 11. So yeah, that's interesting. That is interesting. That But yeah, so anyway, that's the pre-ramble about Africans and time, or Black people globally in time. But so the series that we got going on here started out with the simple premise that are men expecting too much from women, and I'm more or less doing a recap, and you probably could recap it better. I'll just briefly recap, and I'll let you probably do a more detailed recap so we can lead properly into the discussion that we're going to have today. But the very, very brief recap about men expecting too much from women, that part of it was basically like, you don't expect a goldfish to bark like a dog. You don't try to walk a goldfish and then get mad at the goldfish because it can't walk, nor could you get mad at the dog for not knowing how to swim underwater. So it was part of understanding what women are and moving accordingly. You could probably add some layers to that, but that was, if I had to sum it up in 1 or 2 sentences, that was the discussion. The next discussion that we had, the next show, is that women aren't changing. They're not going back to the 1950s. We're not going back to pre-civilization where just me being twice the size of her and 3 times stronger than her was all that was needed for a woman to understand the dynamic between her and a man. Getting behind me and following my lead made the difference of not eating and or being killed by a wild animal that day. So we're not going back to there, and we're not even going back to the 50s. So what should men do going forward? And if I remember it correctly, I did write it down, but I don't got it up in front of me. But it was acceptance of the situation, of exactly what it is. Understand that there are choices. You can make different choices. Rather you feed people with a long handle spoon, put up your gates and only let certain people in. Rather you take we talked about people who take the pump and dump message method, where I'm not going to let anybody get that close and or attached to me or me attached to them. Some people take a more of a MGTOW approach, which is kind of the same thing. Some people do the passport, go other places where the culture is different, and you can get a higher percentage of women who operate a certain way, or some people stay here and choose to operate within a small percentage of the women that are available. And so understand the choices. Once you've accepted what it is, understand what the choices are. And then the last one, the good one, was ordering yourself, getting your own self-discipline and your own self-control. After you accept it and make your choices, then you have to operate moving forward in stoic control and temperament and understanding exactly what it is. That was my analysis of everything that we talked about in the last two shows. If I could sum it up in some paragraphs. I don't know if you want to add.
No, I think that was good. That basically women no longer need men for the lower rungs of Maslow's hierarchy of needs for the protection and provision. And then in last show, if there are 3 points and then 3 recommendations. You went through the 3 recommendations quite easily. But the 3 points are: there's male and female chaos, right? Male chaos, violence, we get that, physical violence. Female chaos, more social manipulation, emotional abuse, psychological abuse. That's what they can do. That's what they're not going to be fighting people who have bigger or more upper body strength than them. So that's their thing. And then the third premise is that the sheriff, if you will, the warden, that sheriff is gone. The systems of institutions and the selective pressures that keep female chaos in check are gone. Okay? And we are in the manosphere, after all. I need not elaborate upon that, right? So that part should be clear. And then and something that a subtext to that is just to say that you don't expect the inmates to cooperate with you to bring the sheriff back. That's crazy, actually, on your part. You should not be saying, "Oh, they're bad people because of that." Like, look, it doesn't work that way. Like, people don't go back voluntarily, at least en masse. Some people do, but voluntarily back into some kind of an orderly state when they've been given free reign to go crazy without consequence, right? So what do? Number one, you have to accept. And when you accept, then you're like, okay, there is no sheriff around. You've been deputized. You now have to, you're responsible for your own security, if you will, right? 2, the choices, right? So you could go CISBIM, you could go MGTOW monk, you could, and anybody who tells you, hey, we use the whole East Coast example. We said, okay, let's forget that female chaos has been unleashed. Let's say male chaos has been unleashed in the East Coast. And you say, hey, I want to go to this land over here across the hill to Ohio, where there is more semblance of control, where there still is a sheriff and a police department and law enforcement. And nobody can tell you, hey, well, why you want to do that? Why want you just alpha your way through this place and get killed in the street? Like, that's crazy. In other words, a real acceptance should show you that these choices are these are real choices that you now have to make. And then number 3, yes, you need to increase your order. So I think that's perfectly fine. And these, I would just add, are the steps that need to be taken by the average man, because we know that whether it's male chaos that is unleashed or female chaos that is unleashed, those on the top 5% of men, are not going to have a problem. As a matter of fact, they tend to live better in chaos. Okay. People with resources, they just have more shackles removed now. Now they buy all the bodyguards and they do all kinds of crazy things. It's like, living as the Sultan of Brunei or something. It's like they tend to have a better time of things. But we're talking about like the average man. And then towards the end, we said, okay, I kind of introduced the idea that, look, there still is a place for somebody to tell you, how about we reestablish, or how can we reestablish order in this place where the sheriff no longer exists, that which keeps the female chaos in check no longer exists. How about a way of establishing this? And we said that we know that this is going to be, it's going to take a lot of power, a philosopher king type stuff, someone who can pull levers and organs of influence and so on and so forth, right? And that's what we're going to attempt to discuss today. And we mentioned the caveat that, and I think C already mentioned in the chat when I looked at it earlier, that someone said, you know, it's not going to work, so on and so forth. So it's not about really working. It's about, here is what needs to be done, right? Then you could say, this takes a tremendous amount of power. How can this power really exist in this, that kind of thing, right? So it's like, here's what needs to be done. It's like Plato's Republic, to who maybe are kind of familiar with this. Like, okay, how do you build a perfect society? And you say, well, here's how you do it. It's not like, oh, well, but that's not possible. It's like, well, you ask the question, here's what needs to happen. And that's hopefully what we're going to try to lay out today.
Yes, when well, right now I don't even got a thumbnail for this. I text the guy who edits my pre-recorded videos, and he makes the thumbnails. He makes some of my thumbnails for me, and I wanted him to make a thumbnail for this one. And the tagline, well, I mean, you can see the title, but the tagline that I want to be in the thumbnail was, "Other than letting it burn, how can we fix this?" Or what's the next step? It was something along the lines like that.
You know what? Letting it burn sometimes is a prerequisite, because one thing I just mentioned right now, which is that, it takes an amount of power to do certain things. There is a suggestion in that statement that you need to go back to ground zero, if you will, in certain instances.
Yeah.
In order to build something, you sometimes just need to scrap it all. Like, you know, if you have ever been in the construction industry, you know that building a new thing is a lot easier than trying to remodel some old crap, shitty concrete, steel that you don't understand who built it from the 1950s, or obstructions everywhere. It's like, just level it and let's start afresh, right? That kind of thing. So, after we lay out what needs to be done, it may be the case that, this cannot happen until certain aspects have already been burnt down.
Right. Yeah, it was other than letting it burn, what can good men do? Because there's the saying, evil prevails when good men do nothing, or something like that. So I was brainstorming it from the perspective of thinking that if somebody identifies the problem that we laid out, the Western world has changed, Pandora's box is open, the toothpaste is out of the tube. How does one put toothpaste back into the tube? And that's essentially what we're going to be talking about today. So like I said on the last show, it's a tall order. It is. So when Ike teased it, so we're gonna dig right into that. My initial thought is, and maybe this was that almost that letting it burn aspect, to creating a homeostasis and all of that, to basically start over. And what you sipping on, Ike? That don't look like water. I'm not. You're a water drinker. What you got right there?
Well, I have the Ethiopian sparkling water. I always have sparkling water, right?
Okay.
And then I have a cappuccino. It is kind of late over here. We're 10 hours ahead.
Okay.
And then I have some Ethiopian Chardonnay, right? So it's all going down.
Okay, you and I got coffee and some cheap ass Walmart brand water or something. So I don't know.
There you go. Good times.
But all right, so we're about to get into that. So where do we start? Putting the toothpaste back into the tube of the Western world, because I want to make sure people really understand that everything that we explained in the previous shows, those are the micro things that you can do right now. Now, I hate when people are having these conversations and we're talking about big ideas, and somebody comes in and says, "Man, just walk away. Just lead them hoes alone." Damn, I'm not supposed to be cussing, but you get the point. Like we've already covered that in the last two shows. The methods that an individual man can take. We've covered the micro. We've talked about the micro and what the individual man can do right now, today, to make sure that in his bubble, his bubble that's around him, his life, that he can protect himself It makes sure that he orders his life and has a life that, you know, where the factors that orbit around him, that get close to him, that he has a certain degree of control over. We talked about that and what the individual man can do. Now we're talking about big picture, macro thinking, and how to right the ship of this Western world where, in many ways, as I said in the last show, the inmates are running the asylum. So big ideas that will be discussed here. So go ahead. Where do we start?
Where do we start?
Yes.
Look, well, luckily for you, Bernard, I'm an engineer, so we have a very systematic approach to everything. So basically, and we understand, and this is just a true fact, not an engineering thing, that the problem statement is everything, right? In other words, there are many ways to solve things, but the problem statement only has many different ways of saying it. It's the more general, in other words. Like the problem statement could be like, we don't have water in this apartment, right? How do we bring water? Many ways, but as long as you can state the problem succinctly, clearly, then you are a great way there towards understanding the solutions, right? So what is the problem statement here? I would say that community does not exist, okay? And femininity has been denigrated, okay? So community does not exist. It needs to be reestablished. So it's not just a question of, community as a whole. In other words, you cannot solve, it's not about, this one particular aspect. It's like, no, the whole community does not exist. It needs to be established, reestablished again. And femininity has been denigrated. Is it kind of a subset, a symptom, or a cause of the big problem that community has been, does not exist? So basically, I will go forward to then say that on the male side, there needs to be an establishment of hierarchy and order. On the female side, there needs to be a celebration, a glorification, if you will, of what the feminine has to offer. Okay, what the feminine has to offer. And then there needs to be a grand narrative. That's that mythological aspect that I mentioned, the story aspect, that part whereby, for example, with my tribe, we come from the Sky Kings, right? They called the Ogiso or whatever, right? The Romans have Romulus. Different peoples need to have a narrative, a story, whether you're an individual or a group. This is true. Bernard Riley is a story. It's not just some kind of collection of cells and, with physics causing chemistry, causing biology, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, Bernard is a story. Okay, and he's affected by the story. If I say certain things about your story, you get affected. Your heart rate goes up. The temperature in the back of your neck goes up. Just because I said words about a story, right? So whether you're an individual, that which keeps you together as a unit is a story, and also the same thing is true for a group. So I'll repeat the things I just said, which is basically community does not exist, femininity has been denigrated. On the male side, you need to reestablish hierarchy and order, and then you need to celebrate the contributions of the feminine, right? Which is something that we know that has been lost. We just kind of picturing out what the problem is, right? So we know where we need to go and tinker. And then number 3, this grand narrative needs to be established again because it does not exist. There is, especially if we stick to the African American community, for example. And I say the word community loosely because I'm saying that the community does not exist. There are African American neighborhoods, but there is no African American Romulus, no African American Ogiso or whatever. Now we see, for example, there are ways of doing this micro-wise where you can go Hebrew Israelite way, okay, that mythology, or you could go Nation of Islam way, that mythology. But those are, especially in the postmodern world, not amenable to broad, widespread acceptance. So to begin with just listing this stuff down, and I think that the easiest place to start is on the upgrading of femininity. I think that part is where we start and we rebuild. And in terms of this conversation, we can start talking about that. And then we talk about the male hierarchy thing and then the grand narrative as well. But this is what I would say are the 3 things: male hierarchy and order, rebuilding the femininity, and then a big picture story about the people that everyone can accept, with the challenge that we're in the postmodernist world, so it's hard to feed people woo-woo. So I don't know what you have to say about that.
Yeah, a lot of things. When you say, I really want to get into that male hierarchy part, but when you say that that community does not exist, I think I understand where you're going and why you're saying that. But one thing that I have argued is, I don't know if you were specifically talking about the Black community. I'm using community in air quotes, the Black community, or were you just saying in the Western world, at large. So,
I would say
so
that one of the dimensions along which you can measure the progress of Western civilization or Westernization or, shall we say, modernity is in the removal of community and more into individual type stuff, right? Individual rights, individual so on and so forth. And also, an important part is that story, which I say is necessary for community, that narrative, we have undermined. One way to say it is God is dead, writ large, in the West. So God is the biggest narrative, right? God is the biggest story, which kind of binds people together. And it binds people together all over the world. Different gods of different kinds of whatever, but still there is that transcendental above us thing which makes us whom we are, which holds us together. And that in the West, writ large, this thing is kind of been chopped up all over. But even more so in the African American community because of historical events. What I'm saying is just another way of stating that whole thing about, well, they took our language and they took our culture, blah, blah, blah. Yes, exactly. They took your community. You cannot have a community without this grand narrative, grand story, without you saying, we are the Edo people that come from the Ogiso, the sky god, right? Every people tend to have that. And you cannot say you have a community without that.
now, what's interesting about that, and I definitely understand where you're going, and what I have said, and what some black people have said, is that, hell, Barack Obama said it, is that American history and black history are intertwined. So when you look at the story of America and life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and all of our story stuff that sounds like it comes from on high when you think about it. When you look at all of that, you have black people in America who started out as slaves, and now many of us, there's a percentage of us that have become rich in this country. There's a percentage of us that are successful businessmen and businesswomen, and so Obama tried to philosopher king sell the story that no, that American story is our story. That's our history. That's our black people. A lot of us don't embrace that. Now I can embrace it. I can embrace it. I can say that I'm a proud American who's black. My ancestry traces back to Africa, but I'm an American through and through. You drop me off, pick a country at random in Africa, drop me off, I am completely lost. So
Exactly.
I'm for better or worse an American, and we all are, all black people here. And the stories of America, when you talk about those stories that define a people, yes, I struggle to sell this point to black people, because I know they're instantly going to say slavery, Jim Crow, oppression, racism. A white guy walked to the other side of the street when he saw me coming. A white woman clutched her purse. I dealt with a Karen the other day. So it's hard to sell the notion that the American story is our story. So it is almost like we're just some lost people without a story. And the only time that there was some rallying story that really sort of rallied the troops and the spirit of the people is if it was rooted in pushing back or fighting against some type of oppression. Even when
which is a negative, which is reactionary, which does not work.
Yes,
right? It does not work. It's not positive. It's not proactive. It's not doing anything. It just says, because whenever you have an enemy, yes, you're going to come together. Like it's just kind of how it is. However, I do understand what you're saying, and I'm right in line with you when it comes to the understanding of the American project, insofar as it tends to liberate the individual spirit, so blah, 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 blah. Okay. But only a certain percentage, I believe, can rally behind that, okay, and keep neat categories and say this is a political, social, and economic story, but it is not the God mythological type story. It does not still satisfy me in that regard. I still am missing something. Does that kind of make sense to you? But that some people, yes, can say, okay, I can take part of this stuff in this particular socio-political economic story. It gives me a certain kind of rights as an individual, the modern project of enlightenment and the Americas, blah, blah, blah. I get it, 100%, let's go. But still recognize that it does not mean, but it still is true that I do not have that other kind of story, which people tend to need.
Do you think for white Americans that how you described it as social, political, or economic story, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, we're endowed by a creator with certain inalienable rights and blah, 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 and all the American jargon. Do you think for white people that's enough? That's their story. That's their rallying cry, the drum beating, the spirit get behind it. They're at the pep rally. They're ready to go. Do you think that's enough for white people in America?
I think that the more you embrace that thing, the more it'll fit the box that it's supposed to fit in. But I think that to the degree to which they need that other box, then they go into other things, other stories. I'm an Ashkenazi Jew, or part of the Russian whatever, or we Irish/English peoples, whatever it is. And those particular stories, it's not like they have to go back and reread it, because there's a continuity of the history, right? They are the practices, the modes of being, the ways of life, and the values that just kind of go hand in hand with it, that you don't have to relearn, that are given, right? However, in establishing from scratch, you need to say, well, who are we as a people? And I would say, to the degree to which I'm allowed to talk about African Americans, I would say, look, you can look at yourself. Let's say there are 1,000 tribes in Africa, which is easily over 1,000 tribes. You can say, you are the 1,001st tribe, a different tribe, not trying to retrace back, okay, because that doesn't work, okay? We're doing philosopher king stuff here now. So you got to be like, okay, well, some people say, well, that's going to be an elaborate task and so on and so forth. Yes, it does require mythopoetic things. It does require rituals and a whole bunch of taking over of media and taking over, need I say, the churches, okay? And you put in your people in there, because whatever organ of influence, be it the media or politics or churches, has power behind it, has money behind it. So what I'm saying is philosopher king types and people with this influence will say, look, these are the new pastors now. This is the message that we're putting forth. We are this particular group of people. This is what we are known for. This is what we wear. We are this tribe that has been mixed with these different things. We created jazz, this, that, and the other. But it has to be a narrative, a coherent narrative. The challenge is, in the postmodern world, it cannot have too much woo and BS. In other words, it has to be similar to the whole life, liberty, pursuit of happiness myth, right? So it can't be Romulus or Sky God stuff, okay?
Well, that's what I was just going to lean towards, because it sounded as if to some degree that you were saying it needs a religious element to it.
Yes, and I'm saying that even life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness has a religious element.
Okay.
That because let me... And, okay, basically, the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness comes out of an imagination, okay? The imagination is this. If you roll back society, it's going to be, and they call it the state of nature, Locke and Hobbes. If you want to look it up, John Locke and Thomas Hobbes. You roll back the society, and there's no particular order, right? What's going to happen? The imagination, because no one did this experiment, the imagination is there's going to be a war of all against all. Okay. The reason why I say it's an imagination, because there's an alternative imagination which somebody else, whom I forget his name now. Crap. Anyways, he said, how about the noble savage imagination? How about if I rolled back time and we were all noble savages, not fighting each other, being this grand individual? You get what I'm saying? That is another fair imagination. None of us has done the empirical experiment to say one versus the other, but one is based on this imagination and then says, hey, what would you like? Okay, I don't want to be killed. I don't want to be locked up, right? And I would like to pursue my ends. So life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. This thing is rather, it's low but solid ground, but it is not some kind of thing like, 1 + 1 = 2. It still is, in your words, selling a dream. It is still an imagination, more rational than we came from the sky god. But it still is like, hey, let's imagine this and let's do that, blah, blah, blah. In other words, it can be assailed on rational grounds. You can attack it rationally without being called crazy. So, but then, in addition, it does not just stand on its own without the addition of these venerated documents, right? The Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, signed by this person. Look at that flag. Look at this statue. Look at these ceremonies we do those things are religious in nature.
Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Bro Truth in the building with a super chat, appreciate that. He says, it'll never happen. Women will only come to heal if there are consequences for not doing so. All consequences have been removed. No shame, no gain.
And that is what we're talking about. Let's perhaps, let's sidestep a little bit from this story aspect, and let's go into, let's say, the elevation, and I'll let you read the super chat, but the elevation of femininity, because in that is going to be the consequences, the shaming of the useless people, the striving for something. What is the goal, right, as a woman? What will be celebrated, blah, blah, blah. All that kind of consequence kind of stuff is going to be in there. And also in there, given the fact that there are these rituals, and by the way, this is not stuff that I'm just making up. Over here in Ethiopia or over all the tribes over in Africa have these ceremonies. Even the Mexicans have the quinceañera, at least the coming of age for women, right? Have these ceremonies that celebrate women. Not just one ceremony per year, but many. They're celebrating the grandmother, celebrating mothers, celebrating maidens, and so on and so forth. And we'll get into the nitty gritty of that. But yeah, go ahead and read the super chats for now, I guess.
Well, I think that's a slippery slope because in many ways, women are over celebrated regardless of what they're doing. They get celebrated for doing the wrong thing.
And that is not, obviously that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about celebrating femininity, not just celebrating because you have ovaries or something.
Jesseville the third. I like your response to the previous super chat. How you worked into the framework a way of punishment reward system when it came to women in there. You excuse me. You worked into their that punishment reward system because that is an important aspect of it, and I like that you included it. I want to dig more into the celebrating of femininity thing, and I'll tease one thing that I'm seeing here. We'll talk about this probably at the end. How a lot of the things that you laid out when you laid out your 3 different pointers and factors, the manosphere, when done correctly, kind of takes time to address or have discussions about that. The manosphere is pushing for really a celebration of femininity. Now, some people get weird with the discussion. When you talk about a hierarchy or even a philosopher king with grandiose ideas, so there are individuals who do have I'm not even going to name the names yet, but there are certain individuals who's saying things and changing the hearts and minds, or at least triggering the hearts and minds okay, Kevin Samuels, triggering the hearts and minds of so many people, but having an effect. I'm not even going to talk about long-term outcomes of it. And you talk about how it's going to be multi-generational. You look at where he's going with it, where he's taking things. I was going to wait until the end, but everything that you laid out, where you talked about, I wrote some things down. Now I can't even read my chicken scratch. So we'll circle back to that. But it's some good things being laid out here that I see parallels and connections to. What at the ground level, the baby steps are being taken in the manosphere towards some of the things that you talked about when you talked about the grandiose plan. But Jesseville the third says it is well established by sociologists 1900s to present that Ados is largely matriarchal via slavery. I see this as number one issue within our community. You can respond to that.
100%, and this also is related to that whole perhaps things need to break down. And in our analogy that we gave of male chaos being unleashed in the West Coast, things have broken down, okay? And we will be able to clearly see because male chaos is kind of outward, right? And a lot of the things with men is outwards, and somebody once said that it almost mimics the sexual organs, right? Outward versus inward. It's kind of interesting. It's an interesting little thing to notice there. But with the female thing, there is chaos. There is a breakdown. We just need to, first of all, see it. And then when we see it, whether or not you call that the gynocracy, whatever you want to call it, then you need to start fixing. You need to go the other way. Like if there's marauding groups of criminals in the East Coast shooting people, you would know hey, this is a breakdown. We need to go and start from scratch, right? Mm-hmm. You will not keep saying, oh, our problem is there's marauding people in the streets. Our problem is it's like, yeah, we get it. Our problem is gynocracy. Yeah, it's broken, right? That's just a restatement of the problem. And the truth is, another sociological truth, dare I say, is that if the men establish the order, the women will follow. And that is the part that we're talking about now. And we can segue into this order, which has to do with, in the female side, the celebration of femininity. And again, this is not some kind of crazy thing. You see it in all the tribes, if we just take the tribes of Africa, of which I'm saying the African Americans should be a 1001th tribe, another separate, unique tribe in and of themselves. Not trying to go back, not trying to do, just we are a unique tribe. This is who we are. This is our identity. This is what we are about. You need to have a core set of values. This is our way of life. And then with that, you're going to have dress, food, clothing, music, all those things that are the attributes, the manifestations, the outgrowths of a peoples, if you will, and a storyline. But I think that in a big part of it, we will begin to see when we talk about how one celebrates femininity, simply by looking at these other tribes and how they do it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. One thing that you said, and that's a flashpoint in the manosphere, it gets talked about a lot, the concept that if men establish order, women will follow. And this is one of the challenges of this conversation, because we're talking about a Western world where the order or the establishment has done everything to give women full creative control to not follow. And that's one of the major challenges in this conversation. And this is a manosphere, so I don't have to break it down too much, and I think we're all sold on the idea.
At the risk of sounding like a simp, are they happy? I almost feel disgusted saying this, right? But whatever.
No,
but the truth is, they don't actually. Number one, they're not gonna. These inmates are not gonna try to be like, oh, let's reestablish order. That's number one. But number two, they're actually not okay with it. At the same time,
I agree. Okay, they don't like the diminishing returns. But when they talk, it's somebody else's fault. And I'm not, they don't want to
somebody else's thought.
They don't want to change anything. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. They're not going to either. That's why we're talking about the philosopher king and what he needs to do along with his men.
All right. Now here's the $1 million question. How does this philosopher king, in the face of all this life, liberty, pursuit of effery that they're engaging in and enabled to do, subsidized to do in some cases by the powers to be, by the government that we all fund, how does this philosopher king say or do anything to counter that? Like because when you're talking about the philosopher king, I want to make it clear, it works if the philosopher king is the commander in chief. If he's somebody who's in there stirring the pot of the laws or dictates or whatever coming from on high in the government. This is somebody off to the side. This is Malcolm X giving a charismatic speech. When we think about this.
Okay, that's not what it is.
All right,
and that's why I have to say again, all organs of influence have power behind them. It's not some kind of magical thing. There is money and real power. Whether there is somebody that can remove a pastor and put the pastor that they want. That is the kind of power I'm talking about. There is somebody that can say, hey, Fox News, you're not going to do these things anymore. These are the things you're going to do. There is someone that can say, look, these are the things that are going to be celebrated, blah, blah, blah. In other words, that can affect organs of influence, whether it be media, arts, so on and so forth. That the real power behind, not some kind of low-level agitator like Malcolm X type, that's not a philosopher king that we're talking about. We're talking about big power, right? And I'm happy that you bring in the pragmatic aspects into the how it's done, but I think we have not yet even laid out completely the what needs to be done.
Okay,
But I think that
all
we
right,
need to lay out what needs to be done, and then we can say, okay, given the context of the modern world, what levers can we push? Oh, this one is not possible, that one, that kind of a thing, right?
All right. So we're going to make sure we focus on the what. The what needs to be done. Jesse Ville III says the matriarchs have proven they do not look out for the best interests of the community. Empowering of the females only must destroy, rebuild, and become patriarchal. Get the minds of the kids. Agreed. At least, yeah. I don't know if you want to. I don't know if you want to tease out anything.
No, we agreed. I think that's more or less what we're saying here.
Yeah, gotcha. Michael Ross in the building with the super chat. Appreciate that. Appreciate the super chat. Now make sure y'all hit the like button. We got 128 people in here, 74 on the likes. I know when it's a small audience like this, everybody in here actually rocks with me. I don't think the hate watchers show up on days like this. So go ahead and hit that like button. We should be over 100 likes easily. So go ahead and get those likes up. I should see it immediately jump to at least 90, but 100 sounds about right. But all right, so let's tease out the what. And I don't know where you want to start with the what. You talked about, you named a few different things.
The femininity
well,
stuff, I think we can.
Well, hold on. Before we go there, I do want to talk, because you talk about establishing male hierarchy. Mm-hmm. Why explain why that's an important feature in this thing, establishing male hierarchy.
It's a when we agreed in the last stream that improving your order was just an inherent part of solving or addressing this problem. I think that it was kind of, shall we say, intuitive and clear, and it was like clear, like, oh yes, order has been broken down, external order has been broken down. Mm-hmm. Therefore, I can't outsource it there anymore. I need to reestablish my order. Order and hierarchy are they're just kind of one and the same thing, right? What does it mean? It means that if you want to be able to do something, then you have that thing up there as a value, and that mm-hmm. there are better and worse ways of doing it. There are better and worse people that do it better, or blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
And boom, once you establish a goal, a hierarchy immediately appears. Whether you want to kumbaya, blah, blah, or not. Hey, Bernard, we need to go move firewood. There are better and worse ways of moving it. There are better and worse people at doing it, better and worse people at thinking about it. Hence, hierarchy is just another way of saying order, is what I'm saying.
Gotcha. So establish male order. Okay.
Yes, and the way you do this, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
No, that was the next question. How do you do that in a small tribe? Mm-hmm. Everything you said makes sense. Mm-hmm. In a giant country like the United States, with mm-hmm. we're focusing on black people scattered all over, and a lot of this is one unfortunate thing. A lot of the scattering of black people tends to happen when those individuals who are black, who happen to be successful or at least competent and productive, they tend to get more sprinkled around into other communities, even though there are a lot of middle class and upper middle class or upper class black communities sprinkled around all throughout here. But then what ends up ultimately happening is there's the hood, the place where there's an extreme lack of order. And how in a free country, there's not a small tribe that is this big mm-hmm. and it's all over. How do you establish that type of order and that hierarchy and working towards certain particular goals and all of that, and everybody on the same page and everybody listening and everybody doing a part and all? How is it? We're not a small tribe, mm-hmm. all packed in together. So how?
And I'll kind of, again, because I'm skirting more towards the what, but I know that the how is right there, right next door. They're both kind of mixed into each other.
Yeah.
However,
I wrote down and then I went right immediately to the how.
Yeah, it's fine. You can attract number one is that it's a critical mass, not everybody. Okay.
Okay.
And then number two is attract. People are people. Monkey see, monkey do. And also, when there is something to, we always organize, especially as men, organize ourselves in hierarchies. In other words, we're looking for something to strive towards, right? So as Mr. Philosopher King, whom obviously has power and people around him that have power, that are now taking over the organs of influence, right? That now put in the marketing and the branding and all this stuff that says, we are this type of people. This addresses the whole scattered aspect, okay? Which is, if you see that, because a lot of people talk about, the black male image, the black male image, the black male image, right? And then they do a reactionary kind of negative thing, which they are like, okay, I don't like the way the black male image is presented, so I'm going to push back against it. What I'm talking about is a positive thing, which is, forget how anyone else is portraying me. What am I? What am I about? How are we going to establish this? And if you do establish this, okay, especially when you establish it at this high level, so people who actually have power, there will be a big attraction of the people you call typically the bourgeoisie. Bourgeoisie just means people who want to be aristocrats, okay? They're not actual aristocrats, but another way of just saying is the middle class, right? The middle class will always rush towards what the artists and the aristocrats are doing. So what I'm saying is the aristocrats, this Philosopher King group with actual power, take hold of the organs of influence, which is the artists, okay, media, church, all that kind of stuff. And in a real way, which we're not really going to particularly enumerate right now, because you can then get into like the nitty gritty. What is the story? What is the identity? What are the core values? What is our clothing? What is our history? What is that story? Because it can be done. It's not like some kind of, it can't be done, it's too hard. No, it can be done. You can have a story. Okay, so that brings the people together. And then when you put it in these particular media kind of outlets, it attracts a critical mass of middle class people. And once you have that critical mass of middle class with the upper people in line, the rest falls in line as well. You don't even have to worry about the rest. Generally speaking, okay. But the rites of passage, I know people keep on, but you have to say this. In other words, you need to demarcate. This is the first thing that needs to be done when you take over these particular organs and so on and so forth. And you have a list of, this is our identity, this is our story, this is our core values, blah, blah, blah. Rites of passage, going from a boy to a man, right? That's already one kind of hierarchy kind of establishment. And then as time goes forward, there is a typical level of responsibility that increases. Okay, whether it be in the churches or these other kinds of new establishments that have been made now, about what it means to then have more and more responsibility as, in this case, African-American male. As you get more and more responsibilities, what exactly is the goal here? The goal of a man is to master the external world. Let's call it building a house, right? That's mastering of the external world, keeping the weather out, keeping the barbarians at bay, all that kind of stuff, building a house. And then I'm going to segue right now into what makes a house a home. You now see where I'm going to go with that now. That's all that femininity stuff. Okay. So I think that the order, the masculine kind of order type stuff, it's more straightforward and easy. We know. Master the external world. Competence, responsibility, character. Establishing these rights whereby it's not just everybody. No. You're going to be checked. You're going to, in other words, in these different societies, let's say you like the chief, okay? Or let's say in my particular family dynasty, okay? You have these different rites of passage. And you do have people whom are ostracized, shamed, useless men. People whose only claim to fame, and there will be no such claim to fame if things are rightly ordered, is how to get peace leave. Those people are useless in this particular order that I'm talking about. And you don't have to imagine it. You can go and look right now in these particular tribes I'm talking about. There is no such thing as, this guy is good because he gets like, that's BS. Useless men are shamed and ostracized. Mastering of the external environment is the goal. Then the different rights and the passing on of more and more responsibilities through these organs of influence, as I'm calling them, whether you go take over churches and mosques, plus you reestablish new ones, which are in the media, the arts, the music, the movies, all that kind of stuff. We'll have this as a forefront. But I think that the main thing here, which we stated in the problem statement, which is community is broken down and then femininity has been denigrated, is you build up femininity again. For example, I'm in Ethiopia right now. There are many festivals in Ethiopia we already mentioned the basic becoming a woman one. The quinceañera, let's say, for example, with the Mexicans, or many other kinds of maiden rituals, right? Where they come out, they dress up in a certain way. Beauty, let me say this again, beauty is emphasized, where it's not just the beauty, it's like this is the beauty of our women. This is what our women wear. This is how our women dance. Beauty emphasized and glamorized, not in a form of Instagram thottery, but in a way that is sublime, right? If you see the Ethiopian festivals, for example, they're all in white and whatever, and everyone is looking their best, and beauty is, in other words, celebrated. So that's one aspect of femininity, right? And then beauty, grace, which goes along with the dance.
Let me
Sorry, go ahead.
Pause for a second. You said something that sparked a thought in my head when you said celebrating beauty and our type of beauty. This is how our women are beautiful. This is what we do. This is us. This is what makes us and beautiful and unique and all of that. And I just recently rewatched Black Panther, the movie. You know, it was I think it's I forgot how much it grossed, but it was pretty high up there. I think it's top 10 all time. But nevertheless, I remember just watching it just in a snapshot. You can kind of see that just when you were looking at just the Wakandans, how the women, how it was all the different. I'm about to trace this back to Black American women wearing weave, just so you know where I'm going. You can see how all the different dynamic ways they were wearing their hair and showing their own beauty. And there was a scene where they were kind of undercover in America, and one of them had to put on the wig, and she was like, this hideous thing, I can't wait to take it off, it's disgraceful. And what was trying to be established there was the notion of selling our own unique form of beauty and femininity and embracing of that, and not clinging to some other culture. It was in their own way, because you spoke about how there's various media apparatus with power and money behind it that has to sell or as I said, sell the dream or sell the vision, sell the whatever they're selling. They got to sell it. And that was a really good, powerful, indirect, but still blunt, straightforward in your face way of selling that, is that this super successful, powerful Black ethno-state valued their own beauty to the point to where when they had to even to just temporarily wear something that was I guess a beauty symbol of some other people, it was disgraceful. She couldn't wait until the fight started and they didn't have to be undercover. She couldn't wait to yank that thing off her head, because it was shameful for her. And so that's what popped in my head when you explained that. And then that really does speak to, even though in the title I said Western men and Western women, but I keep tracing it back to Black America. So we can talk broadly about Western men and Western women, but we're talking about that. It's hard to talk about that without talking about Black America. And this is the Black manosphere, so it is what it is. We'll be circling things back to that. But it's an interesting dynamic. And again, Black manosphere, for better or worse, effectively or ineffectively, going all the way back to Tommy Sotomayor, shaming them for wearing weave, going all the way back to the Black manosphere, talking about Black women in their hair and in the whole works. It's been
I like how you pointed all the things we're saying back to the things that have been said. But all we're saying here is, okay, how do you take people on YouTube? How you go from people on YouTube pointing these things out, or one movie pointing it out, to having a series of festivals like other cultures, where it's done every year, where people come out in their traditional garb, wearing their hair in these ways, in which this is the Oromo tribe of Kenya. This is the Edo women, for example, my people. with their beads on their hair and that kind of stuff. Like, you can recognize that everywhere. The traditional, this is the Edo women, this is how they are beautiful, this is how they dance with that white handkerchief, that kind of stuff. That's what is needed, right? As opposed to just one movie, so it's like every year a series of festivals, not just one celebrating the maidens, one celebrating old women, one celebrating mothers, so on and so forth, whereby the things that are emphasized are not PhD whatever, right? Not that that's a bad thing, not that I need to mention that anyways, because we're not stupid over here. But basically we're saying, hey, look, that which makes a house a home, number one, a beautiful woman, which is the branding aspect, okay? Woman needs to be as pretty as possible, okay? This is how our women are beautiful, okay? It brands the man in a certain way. It's marketing and branding for the man, for that house. Remember, the man is going to conquer the external world. He's going to be building that house, okay? And now the woman is going to bring a light into that house. Now, this is my own just kind of thought, like, because again, these things need to be instantiated in real life mythopoetic stuff. Arts, music, stories, festivals, right? So one possible kind of festival, one kind of imagery that can follow all the different festivals is the light of femininity, the light and the warmth, which makes the house a home. You can even have some kind of plays or whatever, some kind of thing where they bring in the lamp into the blah, blah, blah. And the whole thing is about making your light better. And hey, the better your light, the bigger the house you can make a home, right? That kind of thing. So that's the reward.
That's the part of it where, well, I guess it's not
human beings, right?
It's not a gaslight if you're saying, hey, the more beautiful you are, the more you're going to get. But when you say the bigger your light, the more bright your feminine grace and elegance, the bigger the home you get to brighten up. It's truth.
Is that a lie?
No, it's truth in that. It just I used to cringe a little bit when well, no, I'm not going to get into that. I heard some femininity influencers, not the worst actors, not to get pregnant on purpose, burn the food, look and figure out how to get out of a prenup, not those ones. But it was almost like, I think she had good intentions, but I felt like she was gaslighting, because one woman was talking about how men tend to treat her. She said, "Oh, you just be more feminine. You could just get to a point where I've seen feminine women just walk up to a door and no man was around, but she just stood there like this in her feminine grace, and a man just ascended from the heavens to open that door for her." I mean, and so I criticize them when they go that extreme with it, but it is true that the more beautiful you are as a woman, the more options you'll get. The feminine touch that you get to add to the house, the more beautiful you are, the chances are the bigger and better that house will be that you'll get to decorate and add to brighten up. Yeah. Hold on, really quick before you say anything. Bro Truth in the building says femininity, thoughtninity isn't fun. Hoes want to have. Oh shit. Okay. Well, I think I already got a yellow light on this one. But he said hoes want to have fun. My main man Snuggles in the building. Love when I see Snuggles come through, $5 me to death. I love it. I appreciate it. I've learned to fully embrace it. Somebody said he need to get the bear it's like a Snuggles Snuggle bear. I gotta Google it to make sure I understand what he's talking about. But I think it's some fabric softener that got like a called Snuggles. It has a bear or something like that. Yeah, he gotta get that for his logo instead of that S. But he says this is a lot of intellectual heavy lifting. I have my thesaurus. Thesaurus. I messed up on that word. The th and the s going together. I was like thesaurus. I mess up on that word all the time. And dictionary ready. My pen and pad have been getting on fire from the information. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that, Snuggles. Appreciate it. I think there was another. Yeah, right here. He says, "Why do you include the rest of America when it comes to Black America? Does any other culture include Black America when talking about themselves?" Well, we were talking about the Western world and how the Western world has fell apart, so to speak, or is falling apart.
Yeah,
And so,
the Western context is key because Western context, postmodernism affects all of the West. The postmodernism, which makes it such that the grand narratives have been broken down, affects all of the West. Blah blah. Right. So we have to be true to the context within which we're working. And I begun this by saying that you have to clearly state the problem statement. If you're going to build a community, you're not just building community up in the air. One of the ways in which I've tried to establish the context within which we have to work is to say we're working in a postmodern era. You're going to need to account for that. And this is the reason why, let's say, the Hebrew Israelites, no shade to anybody, or the Nation of Islam, it's not going to be widespread because those are other things, from the past, if you will. And we don't take those kind of grand narratives anymore in the West. In other words, God is dead.
good stuff, good stuff. And Tony Bay's just doing what I knew a lot of people was going to do, and we tried to establish this early on. Perhaps he wasn't here, but he says SYSBM is the only viable solution for Black men in America. Anything else is a pie in the sky idea. We understand going in that what we're talking about to some degree may be a pie in the sky, or at least really, really difficult. We understand
it is exactly a pie in the sky idea. That's what these kinds of grand narrative trying to establish. That's exactly what it is, right?
Yeah.
So it's philosophy.
And, yeah, we understand that it's a really tall order, but we did establish in the last two shows leading up to this one is that the individual man, the micro, is yes, it may very well be SYSBM. It may very well be getting a passport and going somewhere where as Ike explained, the sheriff still has some control. The inmates are not running the asylum over there, so your odds are better over there. Over here, you're probably dealing with a much smaller percentage of possible suitors or possible people that you can even deal with, depending on given your temperament and what you want, because you may be that person who likes this chaos and thrives on it. so we already touched on the micro. I'll go back and listen to the beginning of this one, and we broke down. That was the first thing we talked about. We recapped the last few shows and talked about the micro. Now we're talking about the macro, the title of the show, to specifically let you know exactly what we're talking about: how to solve the problems between Western men and women on a macro scale. So if you're talking about solving problems on a macro scale, you are talking about a lot, because we're talking about a Western world. We're on a macro scale. The governments have done everything to, perhaps with good intentions, they've done things to cause chaos between men and women in an effort to appease women. They've done so much to cause chaos between men and women. How do you right that ship? How do you put that toothpaste back into the tube? How do you grab everything that has came out of Pandora's box, stuff it back into Pandora's box, and then close it? That's what we're talking about doing. So as an
there's something that Bro Truth said. I'm sorry. I know I've been interrupting you more than usual, but
go ahead.
It's mainly because of the time thing. So we can talk over each other. We've established a rapport.
We got this.
Something Bro Truth said, which is that the thottery is not fun, and so on and so forth. And people seem to think that these tribes that I'm talking about, for example, that it's just a bunch of pure angels. No. You can have, in other words, these things that celebrate femininity are a lot of fun for women. They love that shit, right? They love attention. They want to have festivals where they come to wear white whatever and tie their hair in a special thing, and who has the best dress this year, that kind of a thing. They love all that. And you can still have your quote unquote fun, right? Yeah. But you're talking about a landscape whereby you're going to establish certain ground rules, okay? and people are still going to feel valued, because trust me, a big part of what's going on here is that femininity has been completely denigrated. Everyone has been told to become men. Women have been told, hey, go measure yourself in terms of competence and this and that and the other. Forget femininity. What femininity is barefoot and pregnant, blah, blah, blah. So how do we say, hey, no, there is something about building the house that's masculine stuff. There's something that makes the house a home. It is necessary. It's not, we're not making it up when we say it's necessary. There is no home if we just left up to men. We don't do that shit. We just build a house. We're just doing our thing. The emotional, social aspects, the experiential aspects, that warmth and light, again, of which we're trying to encourage the women to have the best light and the best warmth, the best beauty, the best grace, the best kind of social etiquette, so on and so forth. The femininity that makes that house a home, because that's how society works. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Otherwise, you don't have a community. These are the things that we're saying we need to establish. And then you can still be a thought. Like, it's like, I don't understand why people get into the whole, it's this or that. You get what I'm saying?
We can establish all that. You can still go and be a thought.
Like, yeah, as long, you know how people are. We're not one-dimensional. It's like, okay, good. I'm gonna put on my suit, and as long as I'm being respected for putting on my suit, I'll put on my suit, and as long as that's the one particular lay of the land and the game to play, I'll do that. But I can still go and do this other ratchet shit, right? So the point is, but you need to establish through, not just, again, to the point that we made last about the movie Black Panther. It needs to be more than that. You need to take hold of. You need to have these. This is the philosopher part, which is you're going to have the music, the art, the dress, the festivals that have, in my own little imagery was, the light thing, right? Whereby, you're encouraging women to have the brightest and the warmest light, okay? And it's based on, their beauty, their femininity, their grace, their social grace, and so on and so forth. That which makes a house a home, blah, 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 blah. And this is very important. How do you know it's important? Hey, we celebrate it time and time every year. What else needs to be told about why it's important, right? That kind of a thing needs to be established. And these also form as glues, going back to the community thing again, okay, is formed as a glue to keep the society together. That whole, this is our way. These are our women. These are our traditional garb. This is how we are. And without that, you cannot bring back order. The sheriff is not coming back. This, in fact, is the sheriff, what I'm describing right now. And obviously the shaming of the useless ones, right? And on the male side, no babies for uselessness, right? And yes, the women, yes, we're grooming men on this side with that hierarchy stuff, so that you over there with the brightest light, you're going to get that guy over there that is establishing competence and ability to master the external world.
Terrence B in the building. I kind of clowned you again yesterday, but I put it on Patreon for your revelations that you gave us the other day. I think it was March 16th. Where you gave us some revelations about your personal life and your relationships. I kind of had to clown you again yesterday, but I put it on Patreon. But shout out to you. Appreciate the super chat. Appreciate you coming through. Appreciate your honesty and everything. You showed why this space is still very much needed with the things that you said. Red sings the blues in the building. He says donation to the two knowledgeable guys I interviewed. Shout out to Red sings the blues. Red, I don't know what time me and Ike are going to wrap this up, but I need to do a one-on-one consultation with you on how to get the member feature. I want to share my screen and you show me how to actually get that member feature, because I was under the impression you had to have 30,000 subs, and now I'm seeing people like yourself and many more people who don't have 30,000 subs who got the member feature. So I need you to give me a consultation on how to do that, because I couldn't figure it out on my own. And the one time that I did get to the right screen where that was possible, it told me I had to have 30,000. So there's some workaround that some of you know, and we're going to have to do a one-on-one consultation in StreamYard privately, where I'm going to screen share my screen and you're going to tell me where to click so I can get this figured out. That's what. Yeah, we gotta schedule a consultation. Hopefully, right after I get done here. Hopefully, you're available. Let me know if you are. But thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that, and make sure y'all checking out Red Sings the Blues. And God dang it, I forgot again. Moderators, come on, y'all got to be on your job. I need to see Ike's chat, Ike's channel spammed through the chat I know I'm forgetful, but how could well, I can't say 147, but I got so many moderators. I mean, 33% of the audience at least be moderators. So I don't know how 50 people forgot. I'm one man. I can forget to drop his link, but 50 of you forgot to drop his link. So come on, let's get it. Let's get his link spamming through the chat. There's probably still some people here who's not subscribed to Ike. You need to go over there and do that. You are certainly missing out on a wealth of information by not being subscribed to Ike. So make sure you go and do that. I'm waiting on somebody to drop it in there fresh and new. But so there it is. Somebody got it right there. Shout out to Nick Penn. Okay. So I like the what that we got going on and established here. Shout out to Dr. Thunder. I like that name. Dr. Thunder. All right, so I like what we got established here. You're talking about men and the hierarchy. You talk about men being productive, almost like a rites of passage for men. I like that learning how to build a house aspect of it. That's something that if that got ingrained into a black culture, I mean, I think that's really ideal for black men. I mean, those of us who are more brainy, who's knocking it out the park in the math section of the SAT test. Yes, go on, become a doctor, become an engineer, become something great in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, or this or that. But the rest of us, yes, picking up a trade, being able to do the work, being able to literally build something and fix something, and establishing that as that's the manhood quota. That's what qualifies you for one of these women who have a bright light, as you say. That's what qualifies you for that. That's you, and those who don't meet that standard, that level of manhood, they don't get that. Now, of course, there will be non-conformant people who will still, be the serial impregnator who goes around and does that, and those people will be shamed. And but overall, if it get ingrained into the head of young men that, man, I can't wait. It's funny, I'm using my own personal example. Like all my sons, I'm sending them to basically the Greater Michigan Construction Academy to learn a trade, to learn to learn how to do something with their hands, to build something, and all of that. Even and I'm going to get accused of being a simp here, but even my my stepson from the marriage, I mean, we got divorced when he was 14, but still kept a relationship with him. But being a stepdad, like we always say in this space, it's a thankless job. And so I was still important to the whole overall raising of him. Even after the divorce, I still had a relationship with him. But when it came to the planning of his life and everything, and I was left out of the loop on all of that. And so he was on the wrong path. And I just said, all right, I'm not going to just watch him go down a path of destruction. I reined him on in. Didn't have to. He's 20. He just turned 20. Didn't have to. But I was like, this is what you're doing. Ain't no questions about it. I'll pay for it. Go take these classes. Go pick up this trade. Go do this. You'll be more than likely hired in 6 months to a year, and you'll start, building towards your career. And by the time you get hired in 6 months to a year, they'll take over your job. Will start paying for the rest of your schooling. So you'll be going to school and working and learning the trade. And that's what you're going to do with your life. That's what it is. Don't ask me no questions. Just go do it. That's what you got to do. I'm making the first few payments to get you started. Let's go. I basically had to take over his life, like in that sense. And my my oldest biological son, he's graduating high school. I'm getting him set up and doing that. And I've already explained to him that the amount of order that he has to have in his life, that he's and he tried to get off the path because he started thinking about the college life and going on a campus somewhere. And I'm like, dude, you hate school. You have to be forced at gunpoint to do homework. Like, no, you're not. That's not going to be successful for you. Now if he was that kid that was acing the math section of the SAT test, then okay, yeah, you can go play around on a campus. You can go into some mathy brainy field and get some real mathy brainy degree. Great. That's not you. So you're going to do what I'm telling you that you're going to do. I'm going to pay for it. You're going to do it, and that's going to be how your life will be ordered. And that's that. And so I'm all for that. These are attainable things that when I talk about solutions and outcomes and all of that, I like we said before, the top 5% will be fine. Our top 10%ers will be fine. It's those people in the middle. It's those people in the middle that they have to have a direction, something attainable, something feasible. You don't have to have a 130 IQ to understand how to be a plumber, how to be a truck driver, how to be a carpenter, how to build. I don't even know. Electrician make a mistake, he can kill himself. So you probably do need a high IQ to be an electrician, because I'm scared to do that, because I'm liable to daydream and forget to turn the switch off and then touch something and go flying across the room and get up looking like Doc Brown, and like, no, I don't want to. So I don't want to be an electrician, but and I don't even want my sons doing that, because I know they're a lot like me. We're daydreamers, put it like that. I'm a daydreamer, and when you daydream, if you're doing carpentry, you're building a house, and you're daydreaming while you're working, and you cut a board to the wrong dimension. Okay, you just got to go cut another board. You're daydreaming while being an electrician, you might be dead. So that's where I'm at with that. But yeah, it's about getting the men at an early age to realize the importance of building something, picking up a trade, doing something. Like, those are marks of manhood. With women, you said the celebration of femininity, and them understanding that this man who's done all those things, that your job as the house that he can now build, because he's been cultured into understanding that he has to be able to build a house, literally or metaphorically, because everybody's not going to be, hands-on building like a carpenter, but you get the point. Her job is to bring the feminine light to that home that is built. And
which is needed. There's also a practical aspect of the, let's call it home economics, because one of the things that that's why all these rituals are necessary, because if you just went ahead and say, oh, I'm just going to teach them home ec, that's dry, that's boring, that doesn't work. However, when you mix in the home ec with the light of femininity, set of rituals and artistry and so on and so forth, and also mixed with that whole story of this is how we are, this is our traditional garb, this is the music, these are the festivals, this is how we come out and dance in this particular day of the year. When you mix all that with the practical teachings, let's say it be in these schools which you will establish, right? As philosopher king, you've taken over, the media, various other organs of influence, churches, ones that are established already. Plus, you're going to need to reestablish also new things, new mythopoetic things that have their own. For example, this is my whole light religion, right? In that, and in these schools, you're going to then also teach practical things about this, the home economics, the management of a household, how to have those nice dinner parties where this man, whom is a big shot because you have qualified for him, can invite the vice president of mergers and acquisitions over with their family so that you guys can progress, right? All those things that are on the social end, the emotional end, the psychological end, the warmth end, the experiential end, in other words, the feminine end of things, teaching them the practical aspect of that needs to also be there. But without all these rituals and all these things that I mentioned, it's not going to stick. It's not going to take. There's not going to be any reason why I should be that. Why should I do all these things if I'm not celebrated, if I'm not seen as useful, so on and so on and so forth, right? So that is a key aspect as well that I want to mention, that there are practical things that will still need to be taught to the feminine side of things.
You know what? You said something really good, and that's one area where this space can get it wrong. And it happens when somebody is taking one content creator's talking points and they're using it improperly. When you said a woman could very well say, why should I do that if I'm not going to be celebrated for it? Now, some like if a guy is saying, hey, you need to be feminine and fit and in shape and be pleasant and polite, and okay, for what? So you will look so when I put you on your back and and have sex with you, I'll enjoy it more. Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. There needs to be these external social. We know that the woman is this. We're saying that the aspect that she brings to the table are the social aspects. Therefore, also, we're saying her chaos is in the social sphere. Look, you know where I'm going with this. Therefore, also, her rewards need to be social. Right? You need those ceremonies.
Yes.
All these tribes that have all these ceremonies, you think they're stupid? No, evolution is not stupid. These things come out of a natural need, right? They need to be that way. And another thing that I noticed, for example, and this also because we're talking about the glue that keeps a society together. And we're talking about these different rituals and so on and so forth. And we're talking about sentiments such as, oh, this is our women. This is how our women are particularly beautiful. This is our tradition, blah, 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 those kinds of things, right? Those are part of what keep a society together. When I was in Ghana, for example, right? I did a wedding recently. There was all kinds of people you talk to and have to meet and know different aspects of the family whom vouch for this person and also can, because it is necessary, right? They need to demonstrate to you that, yes, this person was raised correctly, right? And they can do this, that, and the other. And each time you meet these people, they're giving both you and her advice, okay? And one thing they tend to repeat, I hear it over and over again, and this also goes into the point of taking things that already exist, such as Christianity. They always quote that line about, he who finds a wife finds a good thing, right? They always say that. While they're like, hey, you need to submit to your wife, your husband, and you must be this, that, blah, 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 and you ain't coming back, right? All the typical talk that they say, which is, this is it. You ain't coming back. You're coming back to complain to me about it. We're not going to listen to you, that kind of stuff. But at the same time, they always mention that he who finds a wife finds a good thing, and, the find favor with the Lord, that kind of a thing, which is part of that whole, hey, it makes me feel good. It makes her, that is, feel good that, hey, I am a wife. Yes, I'm a good thing that has been found, right? Just a simple example of using things or tropes that are already out there, use that, but also you can create new ones. This whole light festival that I'm talking about, plus not just with the maidens, but also with the mothers. You could have another kind of Mother's Day, but not fake Mother's Day, but real one that has like a real community type of thing. And then also grandmothers will also be celebrated. In other words, that whole light that makes the house a home needs to be socially glamorized and raised up in a sublime way, almost quasi-religious, because that's how human beings are. Like, I'm not saying I'm not reinventing the wheel here.
Right. Okay, so do we still celebrate the grandmother if she's only 39 years old and got 4 kids by 4 different men?
And these things will self-regulate themselves because there will be the shaming of the useless, both on the men's side and the women's side, right? Because the people, if these are the standards, will not want to be sullied by those whom have got it wrong. Right? It happens naturally that way.
Yeah. America's team, Dallas Cowboys. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. What is wrong with you? Says, shout out to you, Bernard. That's how you evoke change. Thank you very much for the super chat. Appreciate that. We got. Hold up. Here we go. Found it. Utopia says, there was a time where I was picked on in some places for not being tough enough as a girl. That's unfortunate. I'm glad to see and hear more men speak about the value of femininity, etiquette, and homemaking. Absolutely, absolutely. I recently had a conversation. My memory is cloudy on it, but yeah, women. Just in short, yeah, it's okay to be weak and not know how to fight as a woman. And that conversation came up, and somebody was saying that no, that she should be. Now, somebody asked a goofy question. They said, if you're out with your woman, and this is unfortunate, these questions even have to be asked. If you're out with your woman, you're out somewhere, and some other woman comes and does something to her or whatever, or do you step back and let your woman handle that if it's about to, if the woman came at her and it's past the point of no return where it's a fight about to take place? As a man, what do you do in that situation? And some guys were actually saying that, hey, I trust my woman to handle that situation. I was like, huh? I was like, no, my woman don't fight. That woman, if anybody attacks my woman, they're going to be dealt with. Dealt with. Big, small, male or female, they will be dealt with. My woman don't fight. She's not supposed to do that. She's not supposed to be tough. I would be
100%.
perfectly fine if some woman comes at her to try to fight her, and if she just balled up in the corner until I threw that woman across the room somewhere. Like, but anyway, you were about to say something. Go ahead.
No, there's number one, I completely agree with you. You restrain this woman that is trying to attack your woman. And then something that comes to mind is
bus driver uppercuts are not off the table, but ideally I would like to just grab her and throw her somewhere. That's best case scenario. But
restrain, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly,
if she's coming at my woman swinging, throwing punches, I can't guarantee she won't be greeted with a punch from me. But bare minimum, she should be grabbed, restrained, and tossed really far. But anyway.
When it comes to that whole protection thing, because bro, truth again, this point he made was salient. He made 2 points a couple of times. Well, he talked about, it's not something. It's not fun. It's not. No, it is fun. Trust me. They want to come out and show whatever and wear the white dresses on the festivals and do their hair this way. I'm like, are you crazy? Of course they want to do that, right? And then there is the aspect of protection, which what you're mentioning brings up, which is, look, people don't want to protect pit bulls. Okay, people will protect puppies. I don't understand why a lot of people forget that we're animals. We're mammals. Okay, we have instincts. The instinct for protection is to protect the fragile and the delicate, right? Not pit bulls, right? You walk away from you avoid them. Okay, the natural instinct to protect is to protect a puppy, a delicate flower, a crystal, that kind of a thing. In other words. Your femininity. It's your femininity that makes me want to protect you, not your ovaries. People are like, it's kind of crazy. Someone's like, oh, well, I have ovaries, so I must be protected. It's like, who the hell are you? No. It's like, no. But in a society where I can be kind of assured that most women are feminine and they do understand that, okay, that this is their role and so on and so forth, and it is also celebrated because those things have been established, then I will go ahead and just assume, yes, that's a femininity, I'll go protect. But you think you have some kind of special right for protection just because, like, get the fuck out of here. I'm sorry for cussing, but that needed it. That needed the cuss there. Like, get the hell out of here if you think you have some special right because of ovaries. No, it's your delicacy and your femininity that brings it out of us naturally.
You didn't know we were going to necessarily talk about this, so feel free to punt when I ask this question. But how much of it do you think when we're talking about that femininity thing? It's something I've been brainstorming around. Part of it with Black people, and it's a science that shows that Black people have the most testosterone, and high testosterone is not a problem with men. But with women, when we're talking about all this femininity thing, we're talking about the group of women that has the highest levels of testosterone, which could make some of it, to some degree, maybe not as possible as we would like it to be. What are your thoughts on that? And understand that's it's kind of a big question that you weren't prepared for, but you can give your thoughts on it or not.
I would give some thought to it, which is basically, you're talking about West African people, right? Which is where
okay,
Edos come from. I'm West African myself, Okay,
I think I
come from
asked you this
Nigeria.
question before. I don't know if I asked.
Yeah, we kind of touched upon it in terms of like,
Okay.
testosterone
All right.
in
Yeah.
West
Yeah.
Africa.
We did. We did. Okay. I thought it was somebody else that I asked that, but well, I guess I asked it
So
again. So go ahead and answer it again.
it's a relative thing. In other words, everyone, okay, in Nigeria, for example, has high testosterone, both the men and the women, right?
Mhm.
If you go over to where I'm at right now, which is Ethiopia, it's lower, right? However, what's key there is the relative aspects, right? You get what I'm saying, right? So
Mhm.
you're in Nigeria, okay? The women are a little bit more rah-rah, but the men are also a lot rah-rah, right? So a woman can still be feminine relative to the man. Now he may have an Ethiopian man may have some difficulty dealing with a Nigerian woman, let's say, for example. But you get what I'm saying. It's relative. And no culture can have it all. In other words, some places are great for femininity. For example, we're talking about, let's say, Ethiopia, or let's say Asians, if you want to go away from the black thing, right? When there is femininity, in other words, you can't have, super masculine men and also super feminine women. No
Right.
particular group of people can have it all.
Exactly.
So
No,
even
hold on.
yeah,
That's a real good point because I've always said if Asian women are considered to be the most feminine women, okay, what group of you look like you disagree?
no,
That's
no,
what
no.
they
I'm
said.
just I'm saying, yep.
Okay, okay. I thought that was a disagreeing look. If Asian women are considered to be the most feminine women, look at their men. You're talking about the shortest group of men. They got the least amount of testosterone, the least amount of muscle mass. And as I pointed out, and I'm going to stop pointing out, they're short in more ways than one. That's actually scientifically proven. That's not just a stereotype. So yes, it's the same genetic material. It's the same genetic material that goes into the women. I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it. But yeah, you already explained it best. One group can't have it all. You can't have super. It would be shocking if the Asian men were tall, fast, athletic athletes, like high testosterone athletes at the same percentage rate that black men were, but their women were soft, feminine, docile at that rate. It's unlikely. So as black men with deeper voices and higher testosterone, okay, and our women on average got deeper voices and higher testosterone, but some black men, pending their temperament, not can deal with that. But some black men, they got the right temperament. When the chick get all high testosterone up, some black men that can rah and growl and bark her back down into that chair. I ain't doing it. That's
Yeah,
not,
exactly. So the whole thing that we're talking about here, which is the macro scale, is, and again, Nigeria is a country. It is actually the most populous African country. The highest density of black people in the world is where I'm from. Okay, and they tend to have the highest testosterone. Blah blah blah. Same thing with the women. And I just said, hey, look, it may be difficult for an Ethiopian man to deal with a Nigerian woman, and Ghanaians are a little bit less. Less so. So, for example, let me go ahead and even kind of say this, because I did this too, right? I'm married to a Ghanaian woman, right?
you didn't have to whisper when you said you were married.
I'm married to,
I just recently got married.
But basically, it's kind of, you're like, hey, look over there, still West African, still very close, same kind of features and so on and so forth, the same race, if you will, because one thing you need to understand is that blacks are different races, kind of literally. It's not just one race, because they're very genetically distinct, a Sudanese versus anyways. Point is, the Nigerian men, or let's say the Ghanaian women, they like Nigerian men, because those Nigerian men, they're all all crazy, and all about that money, all about that whatever, they're loud, they're this, they're that. The Ghanaian women are a little bit more subdued. So you kind of see that kind of cross-cultural thing where take the white versus the Asian women, for example, right? You see that white man, Asian woman dynamic, right? So, however, within Nigeria, okay, high testosterone, everybody has it, but you have social things that make it such that you don't have to do all that rah stuff yourself as an individual, okay?
Yeah.
Yes, because you have high testosterone. She also has higher testosterone, but relatively, you still have higher than her. But also, there is a system of, like, again, the festivals, the uplifting of femininity, because all those things I mentioned, that was said in Ghana, and the things that you see are the same thing in Nigeria as well. The woman is vouched for, that this is a good woman, that kind of a thing, and it means something to be a good woman, which it means femininity, not she. Not the male competence type of things. It's feminine competence type of things, right? So that serves to keep everyone in line, because people need to be kept in line. Male chaos needs to be kept in line by the cops and the jails. Female chaos needs to be kept in line by social pressures and these kinds of things, and enforced by the families, blah, 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 right? So the testosterone thing, yes, is true, but you need that nice cold blanket of the social pressures to keep people in line. Without it, it's a powder keg.
Emancipated Niggers, still no fan of that name, but thank you for your super chat. Appreciate it. She says, for helping your sons figure their futures out and not giving up on them like some do when they turn 18. More parents need to do that. That is a problem that I see that happens a lot out here. Where a lot of people feel like if they get their kid to just to make it through high school, make it to the age of 18, they had food, water, shelter, they made it to 18 without dying. Okay, whew, I'm done. Like, no, that's not parenting goes beyond 18.
Yeah,
it does. It changes. It's different once they turn 18, but there's still important things that need to be done, unless your child is someone who at 18, like I've seen this and I've seen it work. Somebody got hired into a plant, an automotive plant. I forgot what they started out at. Probably started out around $20 an hour in that area. That was a real good starting wage. This person now makes after so many years working there, I think he probably maxed out at about $34 an hour. That's almost $70,000 a year. He can work overtime if he chooses to and make, 90 if he wants. And that's all he ever wanted to do. And he got in there right out of high school and worked that job. And he's over almost 40 right now. And that's all he ever did. So, I mean, unless your kid is just doing something like that, like going straight from work, straight from high school to work, and he's done and he's not doing nothing else. Those are the only situations where your parents
but notice how that's the economic focus, though, because that's a mistake. Is people tend to focus on the economics. It also kind of goes hand in hand with that whole kind of the individualism, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness type thing, where people think, oh, well, you just gave a description, or if they're economically okay, then they're okay. It's like, no.
Okay.
Community, society, and all that kind of stuff, making it work, the grand vision of it is way more than that. You still need, as I was saying, right, you're going to go marry a woman in West Africa. You're going to talk to all kinds of people. And you're going to see all like a whole network of family, community stuff that needs to be done. Same thing with the men and so on and so forth. People whom vouch for. Over here we say things such as mentorship and so on and so forth. But that whole "it takes a village" thing is true all through life, right? And it's not just an economic thing. It's a social thing, also a psychological thing, and also it's a community thing for the purposes of continuity. It doesn't just stop at, oh yeah, you got that job, great.
Good stuff. Kadash Cheya says, salute Bernard for steering your son into what they have to do with themselves after high school. Not a lot of Black parents do that. Kudos. Absolutely. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. There's Bernard Bellraw. Get out of there. All right. Silent Lamont, go somewhere and go find something really high to jump off of. Silent, okay? You go do that. Find something really high, climb to the top of it, and don't just jump off of it. Do a perfect swan dive, pirouette. I think I said it right. Like I want you to spin, tumble, tuck, roll, and end in a perfect dive into the concrete. Okay, go do that. All right, Kadash Chaya. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. No funny ish. The Black community as a whole need to take a page from the Orientals, East Asians on the whole Tiger Moms movement. Do you know a little something about the Tiger Moms movement? I know Obsidian talks about that from time to time. And shout out to Obsidian. Y'all can see the oh no, wrong way. See the copy of the book of it's everything in reverse, so I can't point. Where's that? Okay, yeah. See a copy of the book of Obsidian right there. Make sure you go support brother Obsidian. Put a lot of hard work, effort, blood, sweat, and tears into writing that book. So support the brother.
Yeah, the Tiger Mom movement, if you will, is just a way of putting a name to something that has always been existing in Asian culture, which is the emphasis on education. Ling Ling, you're gonna go to school, and then afterwards you're gonna do your after school, right? One of the kind of things that's in California, this is after school program called Kumon, right? Where this is school after school. You're gonna go there, and it's a totally different program, totally different homework that you gotta do. Oh yeah, and then you're gonna do violin and piano on Saturdays. That kind of thing. And it's strict all the way, and they call them Tiger Moms because generally it tends to be heavily enforced by the moms. And I think the person is just mentioning that because there needs to be, because we talked about the male order and the establishment of that. And yes, this is also true of of Africans as well, right? You get you're not doctor yet. I remember seeing from, I think it was have you seen that one? I don't know if you seen that. It was like this Asian kid. I think it was Family Guy or King of the Hill, and the Asian kid went to the dad like, "Hey dad," and the dad's like, "You doctor yet?" It's like, "No." Dad's like, "Well, talk to me when you're doctor." It's like.
What do you mean, Dad's Razor Bernard think he's slick cutting the cam off? I had to cut it off and go on mute because I had to yell upstairs for somebody to bring me some more coffee, motherfucker. Okay. Sorry. But that's whenever I cut my camera off, that's what's happening. I'm cutting the camera off, pushing mute, and then I'm yelling upstairs for assistance. Yes, that's what happened. But because my coffee cup empty. So somebody will be coming to get the cup momentarily. But anyway, where are we at on this? We covered a lot. I don't know if we made it to the third step.
Well, I think that, okay, so let's just reestablish, right? We said that, the problem statement really is community is broken and femininity has been denigrated, right? And that generally speaking, you need hierarchy / order on the male side. You need femininity to be celebrated, to be glamorized in a sublime way. It can't just be talking. It has to be these festivals where people come out and they wear things they normally don't wear. You know what I mean? This is not what you wear every day. This is not how you dress every day. This is not the dances you do every day. This is not the poetry and the blah, blah, blah that is read every day. This is a special thing, right? Every culture has that because we need that. And then that there is a story, okay, which is kind of like the hardest part, that needs to bring everyone together. That story part, which we say, well, how can we do that? We say, well, we need to look perhaps at the African American community, for example, as the 1001th tribe, 1001st tribe, right? And that, well, what makes us unique? By us, I mean, speaking now from the first person for the African Americans, right? What makes us unique? We are a mixed people. We are very different. We're not some tribe, yes, we have our roots from West Africa, so on and so forth, but this is a different group. These are different core values. This is how we move, okay? And this is a story that binds us together. And you promote this through these, the media, whether social media and so on and so forth, movies, the arts, other things such as churches and schools and so on and so forth. That story part is really important. It is also the hardest part because of postmodernism. It's not easy for people to swallow whole cloth because a lot of people have tried with the Hotep this or the Go Back to Africa that, and that's not going to work either because of postmodernism. People it doesn't stick. Hence, you need to start from scratch and say, hey, this is really true that we are, African Americans that is, a new tribe altogether. And we need to sew it together. But I think that these rituals which you describe both on the male side and the female side help to foster that community and help to bring together that story, okay? And my little light ritual, and maybe we have these other rituals for the men's type stuff, and it starts to come together as a whole thing. And again, multi-generational. This is not going to happen in 1, 2, not even 3 generations, but it has to be a concerted effort at the top levels where the kind of power that is needed to bring to bear. And perhaps next stream, we can talk about the hows, right? Because we said what, Okay, you need the order, you need the celebration, and then you need the story. So if we look at the modern context within the United States, for example, well, what are these organs that we can take over, and how can we take over them? Well, what are these? How could you
Oh.
just establish rituals? What do you mean we're going to have rites? What exactly is the garb, the traditional garb of African American women? How do they wear their hair? What are the dances? So on and so forth, right? Because these things need to be creatively established, right? Because they're not there right now, and they need to be there.
You talk about the what, the how, and I don't even know if we're anywhere near the question of who establishes those things. And to me, I think that's the hard part. This one thing that's unique about Black Americans, okay? When you look at other cultures, or just Angry Man actually talked about this, and I wish I remembered exactly how he put it, but he was trying to explain how is it that the Reverend is always viewed as our leader, like Reverend Jesse Jackson, Reverend Al Sharpton, Martin Luther King was a preacher. Why is it that the preacher is always seemingly the person that's paraded in front of us as the person who's given us the message from on high? And then we talked about also how it's always reactionary. It's always a negative rallying against some oppressive force come together to, stand, march, and hold signs and rah about this enemy that we have. It's always that. It's never a positive rallying cry of what we're going to do as a people, but it's always the preacher. It's that's why I said that who is important. And I don't know how we get there. And you talked about, I think maybe that's going to get into the next segment. When you try to establish the who, and that who would have to have a lot of power and influence, is almost like to the degree like Black people would almost have to fund it. If we're keeping it here with Black people, it's almost like this leader we'd almost have to pay tithes to this ultimate grand leader with a grand idea, so to speak. But before we even dig into that, Silent Lamont says, Bernard Riley, turn it to Ike Turner when the camera turns off. I do not. I just yell upstairs really loud so somebody can hear me, because it's hard to hear upstairs. That's all. And I have to push mute when I do it. But I'm not being a tyrant in here. Michael Graham says, thank God for Kuman. That's why I have the productive circle I have now as an LA resident. Kuman? What is that?
It's that after school that I was talking about, where, and I have experience with that too, where, after school, they go to this other school. It's a different program. They're in a different grade. They're doing different math. They have different homework, right? It's almost like another school. And that's how you create top-notch performers. It's also kind of common in Nigeria, right? Where there's school, and then after that, you go to a separate other thing, where, it's a different program. It's a little bit more strict and so on and so forth, but with the understanding that just your regular school is not enough.
Ace in spades. Religion is often intertwined with Black culture. Religious figures as authority figures for the Black community. Yeah, that's a...
Yeah, and that's why it's important to go and hijack those MFers, because they're doing it all wrong, and they're serving the feminine kind of thing, and the churches are filled with
your good buddy Misogyn War used to talk about hijacking churches. He was on to something. See, we didn't give him a chance.
It's a logical thing. You brought it up. You were like, how come it's always that? Plus, what I call organs of influence already there. When we say the media, well, then what else? Because there's the religion.
Okay.
There's the arts.
Who goes to hijack churches? Because remember we talked about before how a lot of gaslighting can happen in these discussions, where someone is telling the fork truck driver on YouTube that hey, you need to go hijack the churches and take control,
Yeah.
and that way you can get control of the women in the community. And he's like, dude, I drive a fork truck for a living. I'm not that guy. So when you talk about hijacking the churches, that goes back to coming from up top, somebody with a lot of money and a lot of vision, put money in the hands of those pastors, preach a different message, and be consistent with that message. If you want this
that
money
is what we're saying. That we are talking top stuff. We're talking philosopher king stuff, and we're talking about a lot of powers to move levers. And we already discussed what the truck driver should do in the last stream, right? Now we're talking about, and perhaps in the next stream we could get more detail as well. What is the example of a person or a type of person? Or let's look at maybe some kind of microcosms, places where it's been done in the African American community. How do people do this kind of stuff? Because there is the Hebrew Israelite, there is the Nation of Islam, but as I said, in the modern world, that's not going to be widespread. But there is this other thing called Christianity, which somebody needs to go out there and freaking grab a hold of those that wheel and be like, hey, you need to return this. Plus, also, I think new things which have nothing to do with Christianity or these other things, which establish again this 1,001st tribe. This is our people. This is what we're about. We already have a lot of the arts and so on and so forth, such as the music, blah, blah, blah. But what are these rituals and festivals? What do our women do? What are we about? And these things can be written into being. It's called arts. And the thoughts can't be had. It's called philosophy. But the power aspect, yes, it is key. But what we are talking about is power. We're not saying, lower or whatever. And power does exist. We just have to find it, right? If you're talking about, let's say in Africa, you talk about someone like Dan Gote, for example, that African billionaire, the richest black man, whatever, right? He would be like a figure who can move things, and he does. People like that do move things in politics, in the media, and culture writ large, right?
Yeah, I was trying to think of, it would almost have to be a situation where a lot of really, really rich Black American men got together with a really extreme vision and push for it, because what you're talking about is like, again, like we understand this is a pie in the sky. This is a pie in the sky conversation with a long-winded, multi-generational plan to put toothpaste back into the tube. So we understand. We could,
but you got to say it. Even if it's impossible, you got to say what's impossible. You got to say, okay, here's what needs to be done, and then you can say, oh, you know what? Screw it, right? But if you never say what needs to be done, then you don't really know what's possible or what aspects or what perhaps you get what I'm saying, right? Because we didn't have to talk about this, but we said, hey, given the solutions that we talked about before, which is, you accept the situation for what it is, you take the choices that need to be taken, then you increase your own individual order to establish order in your bubble, as you put it, right? But someone could say, hey, how can I reestablish order in the East Coast, the examples we're using, or let's say in the African American community, or as the title says, the rift between in Western culture. How do you do that? Okay, and we're just saying, okay, well, this is what needs to be done. Okay, and then you can say, oh crap, that's enormous amounts of power, but then you can then begin to, it may spark your mind to say, you know what, if you did this, that, and the other, and if you withdraw from, again, and I said no babies, because this is something else that they still need from you. Okay, no babies, especially the babies from the type of men that they want, right? The top whatever, so that you can begin with the next of kin and so on and so forth. Maybe these people go cis-bim, bring in some other person in, but you with these new babies that they create, right, from somewhere where there's still order established, you begin to inculcate these new rituals which we're talking about, these new ways of being which we're talking about, this community where everyone's contribution is venerated, that we're talking about, because without it, it's not going to change. And it's fine if it doesn't change, right? But we need to know what can make it change.
The Hood Conservative is saying some interesting things here. He says two things. In this one, he says, in case you haven't noticed, we must use the liberal playbook against them. Rules for radicals work both ways. Now, when he added to that and says, Bernard, is called a long march through institutions. So let's look at how the feminist or very liberal agenda has been marched through institutions to where they have over liberalized and took all the masculine energy out of all the higher levels of academia to the point where or they got it. They got the hearts and minds of the young people, which going forward to the next generation. Now there is pushback at the ground floor. I talk to my son all the time at all the crazy like I found out about the term super straight because of him. He told me about it, and he said that there's a lot of them that just mock the hell out of all of that stuff. So there is a groundswell pushback, but I want you to respond to what Hood Conservative is talking about after. Go ahead and respond to that. Then I'll highlight these super chats. They probably got something to talk about too. But go ahead.
Similar to what I said about looking at cultures where these things are already established and how it works. Okay. Another way to look is to look at people whom have actually actively tried to change cultures, right? So-called community organizers. I think Rules for Radicals is by Saul Alinsky, right? Barack Obama's little teacher, if you will. But Saul Alinsky is a guy that I respect because he says, okay, you want to do stuff? He's one of these kinds of postmodernist types who says it's all about power, okay? And power will not be given to you. You need to go out there and take it. So there are ways using the institutions that already exist to move certain things, okay? Conservative ideas tend not to be very good at doing this kind of stuff. It's almost like for obvious reasons because the liberal ideas are very good at changing and breaking things, and also in academia and the arts, people tend to be more liberal because liberalism goes hand in hand with being open. Okay, there are a few types, let's say myself and some people, whom are open, artistic, but also still have a conservative, or shall I say, like a strong desire for order, if you will. Or maybe it's just a strong desire for power. Who knows? Call it whatever you want, right? But going through, suing so that you can get things to the Supreme Court. That's one kind of a thing that you do. Organizing groups of people, agitating with the employers and so on and so forth, so that you can get forming of unions, blah, 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 all these kinds of things. You can look at the playbook of someone like a Saul Alinsky, for example, and see how that it is possible, starting from the 60s and so on and so forth, to make a huge switch. Okay, or you go back to even like where this kind of thing was all kind of cascading from, the death of God, the whole modern political project, which sought to kind of free us from nature, if you will, and establish freedom and more equality, which is a good thing, but everything is a trade-off. You can't have it all. In other words, try to break away from nature, you're going to break away certain things that create community. But point being, I completely agree with Hood Conservative that you can look at the playbook of the people whom have done these things, and if only just to see that it is possible.
Yeah, somebody had to have some pie in the sky dream or vision back in they probably had the vision back as far back as the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and then started seeing the early stages of it happening by about the 70s, and then fast forward 50 more years, and we got what we got now. Yeah.
People writing at the time of Isaac Newton, that's when the pie in the sky stuff, like people who were like, how do you take down the church and the state, right? How do you take down the princes and the sage, that kind of stuff. That's when they started thinking pie in the sky thoughts, right? And slowly and surely it came to be.
Damn, good stuff. Ace and Spade says, I think it would do black folks good if we started tackling our problems from a more secular stance instead of having a tug of war with Christianity. I agree. What's your thoughts on that?
I agree.
I agree. It seems like with black people that this whole thing, it'll have to be almost a religious motivated effort. It seems that just seems like given our history and how we tend to function and operate, and we love us some Jesus. So it seems
it's
like
not an either or. It's not an either or. It has to be a both and that's why I said using the already established things already established there, so you use them. If you take the West African traditional cultures, for example, you have all these traditional things and the dances and so on and so forth, plus also Christianity is in there, and whatever they can use to fit order, right? Whatever it is you can use to make sure that let's say in this case femininity is celebrated, you use it, right? It's so if the cohort of people that already believe a certain thing, you need to make sure that they're marching in line. So it's not a question of, oh, I'm going to go struggle with the Christians. It's you have a agenda above everything, and everything, including Christianity, falls in line. That's how big the picture has to be. Everything falls in line. And with specifically the secular aspects, that is what I'm talking about, which is the establishment of this 1001th tribe with its own identity, its own name, its own set of values, its own then rituals and so on and so forth, traditional garb. This is how our women are. This is what they wear. This is the particular kind of beauty of them, so on and so forth. These are all secular things. It will be similar, that story, to the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness type story. It's not going to be some kind of a overly religious story, but with the full understanding, being philosophers that we are, that it is all religious. Right? That is, you don't want to fool yourself, because when you have a philosophical conversation, I always just want to make sure that that is clear. That when you're in Storyville, when you're in Identityville, it is religious. When you're in that realm of consciousness and what occupies our heads, it is a religious game, whether you call it Christianity or not. It is a religious game. But I don't want that to muddy the waters, though. I just want to make sure that we're clear philosophically that when you're in the realm of mythopoetic, artistic, Storyville, identity, culture, it is religious by nature.
Hood Servant, I put that link in the chat for you if you do want to come up. He says when you see the left as a cult move. No, that wasn't it. Hold on, where was the good one? He said liberalism is a non-secular religion. Wait a minute. You mean a secular religion?
A secular religion, yeah. Because again, you can look at liberalism too, and you look at all the sacred cows that they have, the things you can or cannot say, the sacrificing of the Jordan Peterson, so that we can all feel all that kind of stuff. It's that's
they've
what the
created
mob
a
does.
religion. They've sold the dream that we're talking about here. Like, we're talking about selling the dream, and people are saying in the chat, oh, it ain't gonna never work, or that ain't gonna do this, that ain't gonna do that. Some radical crazy person, if we just go back to how everything was in the 50s, just look at how everything was in the 50s. It was some radical crazy person with a dream that pushed everything to where it is now. There's some old...
They're more... Yeah, they're way more. And again, it goes back to that. They're on the open end of... In other words, open people tend to be liberal, right? And open people, which means creative people, are more amenable to kind of saying, okay, how do I create things? They look at things like clay as opposed to, oh, this will never work, that will not work. It's like, no, how do I mold it? Okay. And they go about doing this stuff. That this is just how they are. Okay. Now, some of us are, I'm an open person myself, very kind of creative, that type. So I get it. But the postmodernism is that thing which says, look, it's all about power. And that's why they're so adamant about like this religion that they have. That's why it's not about logic, where you're like, oh, but that stuff doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter that it doesn't make any sense. As a matter of fact, it's more potent and powerful because it doesn't make any sense. Okay? And that's how you get the masses. They don't care. Some of the people, especially because, some of these professors up there, they're smart. They know that a lot of the stuff that is kind of disseminated down there makes no logical sense, but they've forgotten about logic a long time ago because they understand that it's power dynamics, okay, and that there are levels of the game. In other words, there's the esoteric and the exoteric. The esoteric level is where you say, hey, whether or not it is logical, there is only one way to move this ball, which is the people, in this particular direction. And as a matter of fact, it tends to be a totally illogical way. You can argue, like, let's say, Mr. What's his name? What am I thinking about? He's in the Hoover Institute, African-American fella. He's, he's the guy that talks about solution. There are no perfect solutions. There are only trade-offs.
Thomas Sowell.
Thomas Sowell. You can be logical like Thomas Sowell all your life. Guess what? It doesn't work. You and I can understand what he's saying. It doesn't work. What works is religion of the kind of that left sort, where you create the sacred cows. You create, these are the things people can say. These are the people who are bad. These are the good people. That kind of, and I know it's disgusting, right? When you see it, right? But that is the only thing that works.
Oh my! It's so funny when you say this, because I myself was sold that conservatives are bad. Those are the bad people. And I still got that ingrained. They inceptioned me with that. I still hear some conservatives talk, and in my mind, I recalibrate what they're saying. And keep in mind, I am a conservative. I voted for Trump. I don't like Trump, but I voted for him because I just was done with Democrats, and to either you had to pick Biden or Trump, and that's just my thought process. You could do any other vote is a protest vote. So I was like, either I'm going to protest vote or I'm just going to vote for Trump. One of those. I mean, no. I'm going to protest vote or I'm going to vote for whoever is behind the wheel of the Republican bus, because I'm no big fan of Donald Trump. But so
yeah, you were inception. You swallowed the religion.
But yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I swallowed that religion, and it's still in my head, because even when I hear some conservatives speaking, I'm still in my mind, even though they didn't say anything racist, I'm still my brain is telling me that it's covert racism behind what Ben Shapiro said. Right there. It's still in the back of my head. I'm still fighting with it. I still watch Fox News and kind of, overly analyzing, but what's the reason why they're saying what they're saying? Because and sometimes they do say some things that do, like for example, Donald Trump. He knows how to speaking about the philosopher king, he knows how to play that game. He knows how to tug at the emotional heartstrings. He didn't come up on the podium when he announced his candidacy for president of the United States. He didn't come up there and say, hey, I think illegal immigration is not a good thing. We need to secure our borders. If we grant amnesty for all those that are here, it's going to create a larger lower class, and the lower class will suffer. And a lot of Americans,
nobody wants to hear that.
A lot of Americans who are low-skilled workers who we need because they're the backbone of the country, they're going to be disenfranchised, and they're going to be even more of them poor. It's going to cause more people to be on welfare. It's going to hurt no, he knew to say they're not bringing over their best and their brightest. They're bringing over their criminals, their drug dealers, their murderers, their rapists. He played the game.
Yeah. So this is key. It is necessary as a part of the Philosopher King project. Okay, Plato in his book, the Republic, where he does his Philosopher King thing, says, well, how do you establish a society? He talks about the noble lie. He talks about the fact that people are moved by, in other words, lies or religions, all these kinds of things. That whole story space in our head is not about logic. It's not about science. It's not about, mass, and it's not about facts. No, it never is. And I don't care how many, and this is why Jordan Peterson is kind of so key, because he points that fact out, which is like, look, and I believe it's Brett Weinstein that talks about metaphorically true, but factually false, or whatever. Like, in other words, we are moved by these metaphors or these kinds of stories, even if they're factually false, right? If they say, well, I don't want to get too sideways with it, but basically, it is these things that move us, they move our emotions, and it's not about logical arguments. The postmodernist left knows this very well. Now, the masses of the postmodernist left, I'm not saying that they know this, they're mainly idiots. Not because they're especially idiots, but because most people are idiots. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that, these particular people are idiots. I'm saying that the average person tends to be, whatever. So, but at the top, on their side, they tend to be more pragmatic and Machiavellian. In other words, they know, I'm not going to be like Thomas Sowell making logical arguments. That does not work. I need to move people. I need to create an enemy for them. I need to, do all, And we can look at this book, for example, this book called Rules for Radicals, and see, which is very practical, very pragmatic. How do you get power? How do you move people? And it's not by making logical arguments. This fact could just be a simple premise, which we can all agree. It's not by making logical arguments, dude. Otherwise, Thomas Sowell would have won a long time ago.
Whew. I love how you're saying they got to create an enemy, because that's constantly what's done to Black people, is they have to keep creating and recreating the racist boogeyman that's our that's our enemy. And they have to, we keep getting injected and inceptioned with the victimhood narrative and mentality, and that keeps getting pushed into us. And I'm starting to, the way you're explaining it and breaking it down, I'm really starting to understand why a little better. Why do they push for that?
We don't have the positive side of it, though. We don't have that King Romulus, the sky gods, that other thing which we're like, oh, this is what makes us proud as a people. Again, African Americans I'm talking about right now. That does not exist. And that can be created in a secular manner, the way I believe conservative somebody said, right? And that this is what we are talking about. And we're just talking about so far the what, right? Again, the what being order and hierarchy amongst men, the celebration and glorification of the contributions of the feminine. I'm talking about the light and the warmth that makes the house a home. And then this grand story that brings everyone together, right? And that is the what. And I don't think that what can be challenged. That, oh, well, no, that's not what needs to be done. I think that's what needs to be done. And then we get into the how, with the full understanding that it is a big project and that you need to be Machiavellian about it. You need to be esoteric about it, in the sense that you're not trying to bring everybody along. Look, people can't understand a quarter. A lot of people can't understand a tenth of what was said, or the implication of what we've been talking about, right? And they never will. And it's not for them to understand. Okay, it's only for a few people to understand, and then to move things, to be saying things such as, what rituals do we create? What gods do we put in? It's like you're creating gods you're putting gods in position. That's the kind of thing you're doing here when you talk this way. And obviously, you're way, way, way beyond the regular understanding of most people at this point.
Right. DC says, my favorite Sunday podcast. Good morning, gentlemen. Yes, people, this will be a regular reoccurring thing. Me and Ike will be getting together on Sundays. So be looking for us on Sunday. I know I typically have a Monday through Friday type of thing. I think I'll be taking most Mondays off. I'm not 100% sure about that, but typically I don't. Sunday has never been a permanent fixed place on the schedule, but it is right now. So be looking for me on Sunday, looking for me on Sunday mornings. But shout out to DC, says my favorite Sunday podcast. Yes. Listen to us. Get all this good word before y'all go to church to praise white Jesus. All right.
Shout out to Utopia. She sent me a Cash App. I'm assuming the Cash App was sent because of this show, so I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah.
Shout out to Utopia. $10 Cash App. Thank you very much.
Yes, appreciate Utopia. AC Star Talk Radio says conservatives stormed the Capitol. Because this is a conversation as simple as conservatives good, liberal bad. If that was the conversation, then that's a relevant point to put in all caps. If the conversation was at base level. But shout out to AC Star Talk Radio, formerly known as Black Ground Radio. I don't know if I got your email, or I was trying to. I want to get you on to debate somebody. I want to set up a debate. I know Hood Conservative is up for the challenge, so so I don't know. That's my short list right now of bringing you on and doing some type of debate. So email me so I can have your email. No, we in the chat with it, Bernard. No, I gotta get you on formally. He says, I sent it, bro. I'll send it again. What's your email so I know it when I see it? In Hood Conservative, are you down? Are you down to debate Black Ground Radio over here sometime next week? Well, this week, because Sunday is the start of the week, even though in my mind the week starts with Monday. But we can get that semi set up right now. We just got to pick a date if both of you are down for the cause. Black Wolf Inc. in the building. Shout out to Black Wolf Inc. He says, good conversation, gentlemen. It's nice to hear two smooth brothers talk and not be bored one time. Interesting. Captain, I'm a cash app you this week for that crypto show. All right, right on. It's about that time to do another crypto show. Bitcoin been playing around, bouncing around at 60K. Been playing peekaboo. I think the next time it jump up big, it's gonna hit 70K. And I I have
You might take some profits at that point. What's your profit? I'm gonna take profits.
100
line.
in my mind. 100K. I got to pull out my profits and then just leave what I invested in there. That's
Okay,
that's
gotcha.
mine. And so I'll still have something in there after 100K, just in case it goes to 500K. But 100K, listen. I know 100K is such a nice, wonderful round number that when it hit 100K, I think it's liable to drop all the way down to 50K
Yeah.
because so many people
Yeah.
going to sell at 100K. So I might have to
Yeah.
start selling at 90. I might have to start selling at 90. So yeah, it's 100K. It's going to be sell. Bitcoin.
Do you have any Ethereum?
Yes, I do got some Ethereum.
Okay, that's the one. That because it hasn't gone anywhere yet, as far as really high. But in terms of efficacy, in terms of actual use, and multiple uses and adoption and so on and so forth, it's the one where there's a lot of a fundamental case, if you will, and it still hasn't gone there. I think it might get to 10K easy, which is 5 times where it's at right now, which would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, well, okay, the most pie in the sky, to use that word, projections, they say it could get up to 78K. That's what they say, as far as it could go. But I know I could see it moving up to 10K. I mean, I think when Bitcoin shoot up again, it's probably going to shoot up. So I don't know. I like Ethereum. It's cheap enough to where a regular person can own an entire coin. If he got in relatively early. Like I was trying to get in right at when it was at 700, and then as soon as I got set and started trying to do it, and it was a long delay process, and while I was getting everything set up with Coinbase and all of that, and it jumped from like 700 to 1200, and I was like, dang it. So I was trying to get right in at 700, but either way it go, I own long story short, I eventually I own an entire coin. So yeah, I want to see that.
I started grabbing them around 300, like in March of last year when at that crash. It was just perfect opportunity, where that crash hit. That's when I copped me a few.
Copped you a few. But talking like you out there trapping in the hood. Like I went and copped me a few.
Copped me a few.
But oh man. Oh, hold on. Yeah, Ethereum is about to start offering an ARP for every coin you buy. Let me know, Hood Conservative, if you're down for that debate. I don't know if you confirmed in the chat. I know AC Star is down. Let me know if you're down. But so far as the next show, because we went pretty far in with this one. I don't even know if you rounded up everything or rounded out everything.
I think we can do a nice little roundup. But the next show, I think we start looking at the how. But we can do a nice little roundup right now.
Looking at the how. So okay, so let's put a bow on everything that was said. I think Truth is I know it was asking for that too. When me and Ike do a show, we always do a wrap up at the end of it to explain everything that was said in very simple terms. So that way you come in late to this show, you're gonna get the good overview of what did we learn today. So go ahead, Ike, you got it.
So basically, the last time we talked about the fact that there's male chaos and female chaos, and that generally speaking, the sheriff, the warden, the systems of law and order that keep the female chaos, which tend to be social, emotional, psychological chaos, in check, is gone. Being in the manosphere, we need not elaborate upon that, what that means, right? Femininity has been denigrated, so on and so forth. And that you're not going to expect the inmates to try to help you to bring back the warden, okay? Now, what should regular men do? And this is about the last show. But what should regular men do? Okay, basically, they need to accept this, and they need to take action in terms of choice, okay? And then also they need to increase their own personal order. Then what can be done in a big picture term, in a big picture perspective? What can a philosopher king type person do? How can you reestablish order? How can you bring the warden back? How can you bring the systems and the institutions that keep female chaos in check back? And then we started out by saying, look, what is the real problem statement here? The real problem statement is there is no community. It's really a community thing, a community cohesion, and that the denigration of femininity due to feminism and many other kind of modern type things within the Western context is the problem statement. No community, femininity denigrated. Okay, so you need to establish community, order and hierarchy with men, and then the elevation in a sublime way, not just by talking, but ways which are almost mythopoetic, quasi-religious. In other words, rituals, festivals, dance, dress, so on and so forth, that elevate the feminine contributions. In other words, that which makes a house a home. The social aspects, the marketing and branding aspects. You look at these particular tribes whereby the women come out and they celebrate the beauty, they celebrate femininity, they celebrate being a virtuous woman, if you will, right? And they say, look, the brighter your light, in other words, in a practical sense, your home ec skills and your branding and marketing skills, your pleasantness to be around skills, right, makes you eligible for the men whom, we're establishing order and hierarchy with. Okay, so order and hierarchy with the men, you can imagine rites of passage and all those other kinds of things that ensure competence. And then the elevation of femininity in a social context whereby everyone can clearly see, hey, this is how we celebrate our women, this is how our women dance, this is how our women wear their hair, these are the clothes of our women, this is our traditional garb, right, which does not exist in the African American community, for example, right? What is a traditional African American garb? What are the traditional African American festivals? What is the traditional way of them wearing their hair? What are these? You get the point, that these things need to be reinstantiated. This will help to create the glue that keeps the community together. And then that overarching story needs to also be there, okay? Then we're gonna talk next time about how, whom, and how, and what levers, and how exactly you're gonna gain what I call these organs of influence, which is the media and arts in general, which also include religion. But also you're going to have a secular story as well. A secular story that says these are our people, this is our identity, this is what we're about, our system of values, and so on and so forth. How do you stitch this all together? Possibly, right? And with the full understanding that this is a tall order, and it is an order in which where many people can say, oh no, let's do it this way, no, this cannot be done that way. So that is all kind of fully understood. But we're going to get to the how next time.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Dang it. Hold on. My mic probably sound weird today. Hold on. Yeah. Well, I'm not 100% sure about that. Hopefully it sounded okay, but the speaker was somehow on, and when the speaker is on, okay. Well, I think it was low enough to where it didn't cause a problem. So hopefully I sounded okay today. But all right. That's more or less going to wrap this thing up. Did you have anything you wanted to add? Do you plan on doing anything on your channel today or going or forward or anything like that?
No, moving forward, I'm my next stream, which is probably gonna be today's already. What the hell is today?
Yeah.
On Tuesday, I'm gonna try to have there's a guy I interviewed, Jay Ibrahim. He is a fellow Nigerian. I don't know if you're familiar with Jay Ibrahim.
I saw a small bit of your interview
gotcha.
with him. He's
so Jay Ibrahim
he speaks like he's the king of Pride Rock. So yeah.
Yeah, and in real life, he is the real deal in real life in terms of being. Anyways, yeah, he is what he sounds like. Okay, so he's half Hausa, half Fulani from Abuja, blah blah blah. So we're gonna talk, okay, about something similar. You know, we're talking about the bringing together of tribes. Okay, and establishing of a community, an African community in that sense. So very similar to what we're talking about right now. Last stream, which I encourage you guys to go watch, we talked about the basis of it, the basics of why there is division, because indigenous people are tribal people, and tribal people are individualistic, and they tend not to want to come together. Right, that's just the lay of the land, if you will. And I think that this spills over to African Americans as well, where they don't tend to see themselves as one. Same thing with Africans, they don't see each other as one. There's this tribe and then this other tribe, and that there needs to be ways of bringing these people together. We're going to continue that conversation. So listen to the last conversation with Jay Ibrahim. We're going to continue that conversation on Tuesday on my channel.
All right. And with that said, and moderators, good job timing people out. And somebody just made the block list. It was another person who was working hard at making a block list, so I probably need to put on there. They were working hard at it because I'm bad at truly paying attention to the chat. But somebody, where's this person? Other person that was working hard at it. Somebody was really. That four black righteous folks. Oh, okay, hold on. See, now I'm trying to get caught up on the trolls to see who really just has a strong disagreement and who's just an idiot. And that's what I'm trying to figure that out right now on the fly. What it says, Ike is a great liar, but still a liar. My identity is American. Okay.
Does it make sense or no?
Yeah, Julie 24. That's the person that was working hard at it. That person was working real hard at getting blocked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not gonna read. Okay, that person's gonna live to see another day. Probably doesn't deserve it, but I didn't see everything that person said. But they'll live.
Yeah,
to see
misunderstandings are expected and welcome, especially when. Look, I live in this world of talking philosophical talk, really high level talk, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn or nothing. It's nothing to toot one's horn about. This is kindergarten crap. But with the full understanding that this is not the world where most people live in, and people just forget, they just stay stuck in some plane. You know, they're like, oh, you can't say African, I'm American. I'm like, dude, like that's not even what we're saying. You listening to the big picture that you get what I'm saying? This happens over and over again, and I understand. And that's why that whole point of esoteric, which is high level stuff, which is the people need not know. Okay, and then there's the stuff that, you know, the circus and the bread that you give the people, and the religion, the opium of the masses, that kind of stuff, right? This is just kind of well understood. It's only for a certain percentage that can follow you all the way through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I similarly had the reaction that you just had right there was similar to the reaction that I had when AC Star said conservatives stormed the Capitol. I was like, even though he's good in a discussion, he's good. I wanted to bring him on to debate somebody because I disagree with a lot of the things he say, but I mean he says some things that are worth, you know, going back and forth about. But that when people just go right there with it, where it's just liberal, good, conservative, bad, is
yeah, and we were actually criticizing conservatives, saying that, you know, they just kind of stay stuck on this logical thing, blah blah. Thomas Sowell doesn't understand that, blah blah. We're giving, you know, credence to, you know, the liberal ways, the radical ways, the Machiavellian ways, talking, doing this very complicated dance, and then someone just comes in with like, no, it's a one step. No, and I get it. I'm not picking on the AC dude, but I'm just saying that generally this tends to happen, right? You know.
Yeah, to give to his. To be fair to him, I think there was some backstory in the chat that prompted him to say that. So I'll give him that benefit of the doubt. It probably wasn't a direct response to us. I think that's what he's more or less trying to say in the chat. But all right. Let's go ahead and wrap this on up. This was part 3 of the series that we're going to have to come up with a name for it. Something that sounds cool, and we got to figure out a name for it. But yeah, this was part 3 of it. I'm gonna hopefully get a thumbnail on this one sometime by the end of the day. But all right, we'll wrap it up right here. I'd like to thank everybody who came through, who hit the like button, who liked, shared, cashed, app, super chatted, did anything to participate in any way, shape, or form today. I appreciate you. Trying to think if I got anything to announce. I can't think right now, so we're going to wrap it up right there. So thank you, everybody. Once again, thank you, everybody, and we are out of here. Peace.